The following is a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club. Elite chess is on display at the 2024 FIDE Candidates in Toronto, Canada. The famous CN Tower watches over the capital city, and lately all it's been seeing are brilliant moves by some of the world's top chess players. Co-leaders clashed, with Fabiano Caruana gaining the upper hand against Gukesh but the Indian superstar deftly defended, forcing a fighting draw. Jan Nepomniachtchi is reminding the field why he is a two-time challenger, convincingly winning his second game to take the first clear lead of the event. Rejuvenated after the rest day, players are ready to get back to the boards. Day 5 of incredible chess, coming up next.
Welcome to round 5 of the FIDE Candidates here in Toronto. We're in the fan zone. It's a very fun environment, so you can play chess and watch the games online and meet the players sometimes here as well. It's a very fun environment. Let's go back to the studio and start the day.
We are back after the rest day. Will players be ready for some fighting chess? We'll know soon, as round 5 starts right now. Hello and welcome everyone. I'm International Master Nazi Paikidze, and I'm here with my brilliant co-hosts, Yasser, Seirawan and Evgeny Miroshnichenko.
Nasi, Miro, it's nice to be back in studio. Hello everyone, and welcome to our coverage of round 5 of the candidates. Well, we just had, at least the commentators did, a much needed rest day, and we will now see what the players have prepared for one another. Nasi, do the honors and tell us the standings. Let's begin with the Open after 4 rounds of play.
Let's take a look. After 4 rounds, we have a sole leader, Jan Nepomniachtchi, with 3 points. Closely following with 2.5, Fabiano Caruana and Gukesh.
And for me, seeing our star, Hikaru Nakamura, at the very bottom of the table with 1.5 points, ooh, that's chills down the spine. And tell us about the ladies' standings after 4 rounds.
Let's take a look. We have a sole leader in the ladies section as well, Zhongyi with 3 points, but very closely following Aleksandra Goryachkina with 2.5.
Right.
And sharing 3rd place are 3 ladies, Katerina Lachno, Vaishali, and Salimova.
I know Katya was so upset. She stormed out at the tournament hall with that draw from round 4. And do the honors tell us about the pairings for today.
We have some very exciting matchups today. Alireza Firouzja is playing Hikaru Nakamura. Gukesh is playing Abasov. Vidit facing Caruana. And Prague against the tournament leader, Jan Nepomniachtchi.
Wow, that 4th game is certainly a big game in terms of our tournament standings. And what about the ladies' pairings?
Let's take a look. We have Lei Tingji playing Katerina Lachno. Vaishali playing Anna Muzichuk. Koneru against Goryachkina.
That's a big one.
And Zhongyi against Salimova.
Again, from the tournament standings, that 4th board is sure big. And our schedule.
There's a total of 14 rounds. The players will play 3 rounds in a row until the next rest day. And in case of a tie, we'll have a tie-break day.
All right. Looking forward for that in case of a tie. And Miro, are we witnessing history repeating itself?
Well, spot on, Yasser. So with today's being the 5th playing day, 5th round, one would say 1/3 of the tournament we are crossing today. And this feels like a good moment to reflect on these very players' previous performances in the candidates. So a year was 2022, and after 4 rounds, we had Jan Nepomniachtchi, surprise, surprise, on 3 out of 4 leading the tournament, Fabiano Caruana on 2.5, and Hikaru had a somewhat better result after 4 rounds. He was tied for the 3rd. Nepo, as you could see, went to win this tournament in 2022. And this year's edition, we see Jan Nepomniachtchi on 3 out of 4, same result. Fabiano Caruana on 2.5, and a new unknown in the equation, Gukesh, shares the second with Fabiano Caruana, while Hikaru, as Yasser already pointed out, finds himself at the very bottom of the tournament standings. And on that note, let's go to Toronto to Anastasia, who got to spend a free day among the players.
Hello, Yasser, Nazi, and Miro. Yesterday we had rest day in the FIDE Candidates Tournament, and FIDE organized this boat trip for those who wanted to have this great experience and follow the solar eclipse and also see the skyline of Toronto. It was really great opportunity for everybody who is here right now in Toronto. And Nijat, Abasov, Anna Muzichuk decided to join the boat, and also Visha Anand, Arena Crash were there, and as well as many journalists and the organizers. It was really fantastic experience. And today we also have a big thing happening in the hall. A very famous singer, opera singer Andrea Bocelli came today to the hall and made the first symbolic move in the game between Vidit and Fabiano Caruana. That's really great news. Tomorrow he's going to have the concert. I'm really hoping also to attend it if possible. And I want to remind to all our followers not to forget to follow our social media account for more content there. And now it's time to go back to the studio.
Thank you, Anastasia. Something ironic about being in the zone of totality for the solar eclipse. Something's going on. The players are fighting hard. What are they fighting for besides the right to be challenger? Let's start with the opener.
They're fighting for a lot of money. The first place prize is 48,000 euros. Second place, 36,000. Third, 24,000. And in addition, each player will receive 3,500 euros for every half point scored.
And for the ladies, what are they fighting for?
In the ladies section, prize fund is first place 24,000, second place 18, third 12, and also each player will receive 1,750 euros for every half point scored.
Nice. And Miro, for me, this round 5 certainly started with a bang. That game, the preparation of Prague was fantastic against our tournament leader. What's the situation now?
Yeah, so right you are. Right behind me, this is the position of Praggnanandhaa against Nepomniachtchi, and the current position, I'm sorry, is not as exciting as it was a few moves ago. Right. Well, according to the machine, Prague still has quite a bit of an advantage, but yeah, let's go a little bit back and see how this unfolded. And a little bit back would be, say, to move 18, for instance. So white has sacrificed the pawn in the previous play and went d4, d5. And all that, well, we don't have the clock now, but all that was played with Prague spending like 5 minutes only. So, which telegraphs I'm well prepared, right? At some point, the difference on a clock was almost an hour. And as very often the case, computer would claim that this is still equal, this is still, well, you know, almost like a draw, but black had to know literally every single move. So till some point, Nepo was up to the task. So he captures on d5, that's a good move. Knight went to g5, creating more and more threats to the black king. And black's problem in this position is like the knight's still not developed, the rook's still not developed, and something similar we had in, you know, in a disastrous loss of Hikaru Nakamura, if one remembers, right, where his pieces got cut off. The queen on a5 is also, well, has difficulties participating in the king defense. Here, apparently, the best move was g7, g6, and the Nepo went with h7, h6, inviting the sacrifice on f7, which was immediately played. So knight takes f7, king takes f7, the only move. Then, as controversial as it is, computer insists on a2, a4 being the best move, and I just leave it as is. Well, computer says, yes, after a4, white's chances of getting the advantage are bigger than in the game. But in the game, rook d3, very logical, very human move, if you like. And Prague was almost instantly rewarded because knight to d7, here bishop takes d7 would make an advantage. Rook d5 would allow Jan, if he would find it, to take on h2, and go knight c5. And the point being that the bishop on d6 was getting lost anyway.
Right.
So bishop h2 wins black the pawn, right? And ironically, the strongest move in this position for white, one of the strongest moves that is, would be still to go rook d6, even though the bishop is already not there.
Right.
It would be somewhat more pleasant for white, but not an overwhelming advantage. The move Jan played instead, knight to c5, leaving the bishop on d6. Yeah, guess what? Rook d6 was played. King went to g8. Queen d5 check, all good. King h8, and here, I believe, was the moment where Pragg missed quite a bit of an advantage. So he went with bishop e5, bishop f5, and the move that computer suggests was queen to e5. Well, the main point is pretty straightforward. So we are pinning the g-pawn and want to sacrifice, want to win the h6 pawn. It's not
With
sacrifice,
check.
yeah, it cannot be recaptured. And yeah, the line goes queen takes a2, and then one thing that white can take on h6, the other, surprisingly, bishop f5 happens to be even stronger because, yeah, rook h6 now is even a bigger threat.
Right.
Black has strictly only move, which is king to g8, unpin the pinned pawn, bishop b1, and these are not easy moves by any stretch of imagination.
Right.
But yeah, but what I believe Yasser would agree with me is something that we would call like typical computer, kind of geometry on the
Yes.
board. So we humans, we don't look at these trajectories for the pieces. Like you have the bishop on h3, this is a diagonal. If you go here, this is where it looks, right, on the king and not backward.
Right.
Well, it happens so bishop b1, queen to f7, and then you play yet another move backward, queen b2.
Wow.
And this bishop a2 is such a powerful threat, and you can't really escape this diagonal with the king, right? King h8, you still run into
check.
rook h6. Right, so that was the way to close to decisive advantage. Instead, in the game, bishop to f5 was played. So once again, bringing the bishop from h3 towards the opponent's king, but I don't know if it was blundered or underestimated. Nepo found the best defense, knight to b7, which forces white to trade the queens. Queen to a5, knight to a5 was played, and while I was telling you all that, there have been a couple of more moves, g4 guarding the bishop, and knight to c4, rook d5. Well, according to current not-so-deep evaluation, white is just marginally better. So, in a way, the worst is over for Nepo, at least for now. Well, the time trouble might be coming, so we don't know. But yeah, he was on the verge of losing.
Wow, well, thank you for that, Miro. Let's update all of our players. And again, a big fight going on between Vidit and Fabi. I'll turn our attention to that game. It looks like it comes from one of these Russalimos where you get the doubled c-pawns.
Actually, I think Fabio already played the third move, knight f6 in round 3, so he's repeating his opening.
All right, bishop f4.
Vidit came prepared.
And this move c5, c4, I find this move rather remarkable in the sense that you're trying to just trade off your double pawn, but it takes you like time to do that. And you kind of think, well, shouldn't I be developing my pieces? c5, c4, knight c3 takes, e6, g4, breaking the pin, bishop g6, queen b3, give me this pawn, queen to b6, bishop to e3, welcoming a queen trade, queen takes b3, a takes b3, a little pressure on the queen side. Fabi says, no, I don't want to go there. How about queen c7, castles long? And that, to me, is a very key signal that we're going to be watching a very sharp game because you're castling on opposite sides. And check this out, one game only.
It's very surprising.
Really, it is. I'm sure they've played a lot of rapid and blitz against one another, but only crossed swords once before in a classical game. Single draw between the players as we see them there at the board. Castles by Vidit, and asking black, where are you going to put your king? Knight to d7. All right, knight to d7. I kind of was expecting that the bishop would be going to e7, castles, and suffer the deluge on the king side, right? Nope, knight to d7, knight to h4, bishop d6, king b1. All of this is very good. a5, another one of those clear tells that's saying, I am not castling queenside. I'm leaving my king in the center for the moment. And Vidit said, you know what? I like the center. Bishop takes g6, d4, Miro. To my eyes, it looks nice.
Very good for white.
Looks very nice for white. Wow, how's the computer evaluation on this
Right, the computer, first of all, fully on board with white being much better.
Right.
Moreover, you know, like a4 is computer's suggestion, which means black has to sacrifice the pawn
To get some play.
Yeah, and there is not much play. It's just that b5, knight goes back, white is, well, has like a pawn plus, or, oh, hang on a second. No, it actually goes to c5, even as simple as that.
Right.
So the whole idea of black getting rid of the pawn, as far as I understand it, is that now black is castling short. And what's interesting, like, if we go back to the present position, it looks extremely dangerous to castle short.
It
Like,
does.
you castle short, I go h4, h5, open
And
the
let's
file,
go.
and so on. But apparently, like, since black has already opened one file and has potential to simplify, maybe he can castle short. Because the feeling is, like, you can do, or rather, you can go as so long without the castle. But like with rooks being in the corners, like, you have to watch out for white playing like d5 on every single move and so on and so forth. And apart from a4, like any sort of, you know, standard, I want to say human reaction, like you see the center, you want to go e5, for instance.
For instance.
Yeah, and computers laughing at you and says d5 are much better positionally, strategically, and also you didn't castle, and if you will, the h4, h5 are
is
going to get
waiting.
you. So it's not only, you know, the computer evaluation is not in Fabi's favor, but also, like, looking at this position, it's not easy to play. Sometimes, yeah, it would be worse, but at least you know what you're doing. You have a clear-cut plan, and yeah, sometimes even it'd be, you know, your opponent having better position, but more odds of misplaying it.
Right.
Here, it's so easy for white.
Right. If you don't mind, Miro, I'll just follow up on Fabi's play. Fabi played a5.
Fabi played a5. Yeah.
Let me go crazy. Let me play b5. Like in the current position after d4.
Yeah.
I was thinking that, but d5 looks very
B5.
attractive.
Well, exactly. Go for it. Go ahead
Yeah,
and go
like
play
d5 is the move. The other move that, well, in fact, now is computer's top choice, but I thought it was like very human, so I would probably play this one anyway, even if it wouldn't be the best. So you go e5, you go queen c2, and yes, black is getting the square on d5. You do not trade. By the way, there is like a threat of knight b5 and
my
so on.
side.
Yeah, but even if like black gets the knight on d5,
Right.
as far as I understand, like these two against these two, it's very hard to open the file against the white king. Okay. So white gonna go knight e4 and still look
Going
for like
h4,
pushing the
h5.
h-pawn, sometimes even sacrificing the h-pawn. Like, imagine your king's in the center, right? You go, I don't know, queen b7.
Very natural
for
move.
instance,
Yeah.
right? Knight to e4.
Right.
Black does something.
Very natural move.
And then we just push, right? Can we push? Yeah, h4, and they take. Okay, again, it's not possible to take.
No. I'll put my knight on d5 and.
Yes,
So-
I actually just noticed Engine is suggesting long castle for black now.
Yeah.
An indication that maybe it's time to bail.
Yeah.
So your prognosis is essentially Fabi is in troubles.
Yeah, so it's not, not a
Terrible,
not a lot of a prognosis. It's sort of the fact, right?
Okay.
What we conclude from that, will he lose? We don't know.
Right.
He might still win. He might defend and make a draw, right? But the current position is favorable for his opponent. That's it.
All right, let's jump to the game between Gukesh, also having a very nice tournament. He's up against Nijat.
And also, you mentioned earlier, he's the youngest player in the tournament, Gukesh.
18?
I'm not sure, but I know he's the youngest. And
Wow. I
yeah,
mean,
he's having a
Bobby
great
Fischer's youngest candidate. I enjoyed at one time in my career playing the Russian defense, the Petrov defense, and I would aspire to this exact position. Like this is, to my way of thinking, like if I could have if you could tell me, as black, I get this position, sign me up all day. The reason I say that is because I feel that the black king is very safe. The pieces, the piece activities, the knights, the bishops, nobody's interfering, and I have an extra central pawn. Now, I don't know what the evaluation is and what the library of games tell me. I'm just saying that for me as a human player,
Looks great.
I'm happy. Let's see what happened. Gukesh, again, he's in second place coming into today's round. There's a trade, a2, a3. Bishop c5, okay, I think I can get behind that move. It looks reasonable. The bishop on e7 wasn't the greatest. Trade, queen f6, c3, bishop f5, queen e2. We've caught up with the players, and where was the novelty in this one? Oh, and by the way, how do they match up when they cross swords, these two players?
Also not too many games between these two, just 2 classical games and 1 win for Gukesh and 1 draw.
You'd think that somewhere in their junior careers they would have crossed swords much more often. This game between Gukesh and Nijat, Miro, I mean, I'm thinking that Nijat actually is very satisfied with the outcome of the opening.
Yeah, well, the evaluation is roughly equal. Current position, yes, I'm checking strangely not a lot. Yeah, okay, 0 games here. So rook e1, 2 games, and c7, c6, 0 games.
Wow.
But I'm not sure if it's that important, right? So, I mean, that's the structure we are playing.
Right.
There is no direct attacks or anything. So white starting with rook e1 and then later on going like knight c3, bishop e3. So this one is equalish at its current form. Okay, let me bring it up. Yeah, queen e2, and what does computer do? Bring in rook to e8. Other suggestion to go knight d6 to continue trading.
Right.
If you don't mind, guys, I wanted to bring this up to ask you, commentators in the studio and our dear viewers, a little riddle. So guess the opening this position comes from, with white bishop being on g2, you know, black knight on e6.
I had peaked, so I have to take myself out of the competition.
So why I'm smiling in such a way, right? So it's like if you are a little bit advanced, there is one suspicion that where this could come from. It's a Bogolubov defense with a check, and then sometimes c pawn exchanges for the e pawn, and black brings the knight on e6. But anyway, like you're totally wrong, because believe it or not, it was 2 knights defense. Later on transposed into Italian gioco piano, and the only h6, and I'm not sure on theory of this one, right? It certainly does exist.
Right.
b4, and we can click this little button. Bishop e7 is the move. Well, h6 already is quite rare, it turns out. b4 must be, well, not the only move white has tried. And then the move Naka played, bishop to e7, is once again not the most popular choice. Bishop b6 is the move. So all I'm saying, in 10 moves, in the gioco piano, which is pretty much a nightmare for the commentators, because we cannot really memorize all the lines, right, and transpositions and so on and so on. But these players managed to get an absolutely fresh position after, say, 10 moves. And we were not sure how good this fresh position was for Hikaru Nakamura, with bishop on e7 being passive, and his next move, absolutely remarkable, knight back to b8, which has its point, right? The knight on c6 was restricted, and so on and so on. Anyway, fast forward to the current position. So Naka
I'm still
goes
amazed how did that bishop from c4
get to g2.
How the bishop from c4 got into f1, yes. So knight to f4, he attacked g2, and white didn't castle yet. And it turns out, so if you castle, then black goes d5 and gets to exchange the bishops. And Naka is very tricky after all. So white went g3, d5, the only square you have is on f1. knight e6, and then, yeah, bishop g2, voluntarily played it to g2. I'm just curious to check the evaluation of a current position. So c5, rook fb1 attacking the knight on b6, and rook a6 guarding the knight on b6.
Is the pawn hanging on a5?
Yes, it does, and computer has it as the best move, bishop to a5, deflecting the rook, right? So rook takes on a5, queen takes on b6. But it's not impressed, at least the machine is not impressed with white winning the pawn. Apparently this one is weak
Also
enough.
weak.
Yeah, weak enough, so that black is getting the pawn back and evaluation is roughly equal. So it's one of those games, perhaps the only game where we can say like closer to equality than anything else, right?
Thank you, Miro. I must say that my whole high school career, I played the Joko piano, and I can't ever recall shadowing my bishop after I played the Joko piano. Knight d6, indeed, was played by Nijat, and he is preparing in his game against Gukesh to play the move rook on e8. Just going to, before we go...
comfortably.
Yeah, I do. I completely agree with that. Before we go to the ladies, I just wanted to recheck the game of Jan, as again, he is our tournament leader, and I wanted to say that in this position that came out of the opening, bishop h3 was a very rare guest. Prague had prepared that. Bishop b3 is by far the most common way, and you would imagine that to be the case. The bishop on b3 and eyeballing the black king. It's kind of strange. And because the bishop is no longer threatening the king, I think it was at this moment that Jan thought, well, if your pieces aren't going to attack me, let me grab the pawn. And this might have been just simply too dangerous.
Yes, sir. You think the idea of bishop being on h3 is to not allow black to play knight d7?
Well, by far, absolutely. You want to keep, you know, of course, if black manages to put his knight on f6, all of his opening troubles are behind him. And in this particular case, what I find the most stunning is that after this attacking move, knight g5, that the move h6 is considered a mistake. I mean, it's the most natural move on the board. You want to get rid of this knight that's hovering around your king. h6 uncorked this beautiful sacrifice, and I wanted to share with the viewers. I would have thought the move a4 is ridiculous. Like, my opponent plays a4. After I stopped laughing internally, of course, because I don't want to laugh externally, I said to Miro...
Then you start to sweat because...
Yes. Well, I see that my rook on b5 is coming, followed by queen takes. So I said to Miro, well, a4 is a joke. I could play a6, and then you're letting me get in this move, rook a7 as a defense. And Miro was very kind. He said, yes, sir. And after rook b5, you resign. And then suddenly I saw it. There's a checkmating pattern, and really you should hardwire this checkmating pattern in your mind. I mean, I'm being cooperative, but that's a nice one, isn't it?
That is hard to believe, because white doesn't have enough pieces for there to be a checkmate.
And suddenly the bishop on h3 is perfectly positioned, so you can checkmate on the e6 square. And then apparently after the move a4, the best move, just a second, now I have to remember what Miro had told me. Miro, what had you told me the best move
let me find out.
Because it was, I mean, it was a very narrow path.
a4, well, it's, the thing is not sure itself. What's the best move? So, apparently bishop f4, which once again, the move
that's impossible.
It's not natural by any stretch of imagination, but it does do something. Well, it does queen d2. It guards the d2 square. So now if you go rook b5,
queen d2.
Black has queen d2. He's not dropping the d5 pawn.
With check.
All of a sudden, it starts making a lot of sense.
Okay.
So a4, bishop f4, and then white can win this piece back by going g3, or it was saying rook f3. But interestingly, it's almost zeros. So I'm confused. Could it be because it was computer itself claiming that a4 is the strongest move, and now it's kind of devalued it all the way to position being equal?
Wow.
Same as the move Prague played in the game rook d3. So I suspect it's one of those situations where it was very deep preparation using like really powerful machines.
Right.
Stronger than our friend.
Right.
Yep. And all the lines objectively black holds. But white has different tries. He tried one of those, which is rook d3, move played in the game, and Nepo didn't know it and had to lose if Pragg would find all the rest of the moves.
Thank you again, Miro. H2, H3 on the board, and I wanted to get your opinion on this. As a just practical fighting player that you are, you like the rook and the bishop here, don't you? You kind of feel like, I mean, we like white. But on the other hand, would you expect to win this more often than not, or would you think I don't have enough?
Probably not, but more than that, earlier, when the queens were still on the board, definitely felt like white had a bigger advantage.
Because of the vulnerable black king. This is where, this is the moment where bishop f5 allowed Jan to trade, and you're saying had queen e5 been played.
I know queen e5 was Angel's first move, but even queen d4, just avoid the queen trade and keep the threats going.
Alive. Because again, with the pawn on h6, the light squares around the black king are a lot more vulnerable. But the current position again, Nasi, give me your best guess how you would...
I'm guessing Pragg feels like in the opening everything went his way.
Right.
He had an extra hour on Nepo, which I don't think we've ever seen.
No, not for Nepo especially.
Right, and he must be feeling like somewhere he let go of the advantage a little bit. It slipped away. Of course, he's still very comfortable in this position.
Right.
But his winning chances have definitely decreased.
Right. And again, as we were coming into the broadcast and looking at Pragg played like 20 moves within 5 minutes, and it was, his preparation was really amazing. H2, H3. So in my mind, this is what we called the Bobby Fischer ending. Bobby Fischer famously defeated Mark Taimanov 6-0 in their candidates match, and he won one game in particular where he had the rook and bishop versus rook and knight combination that became, you know, a model for the bishop. And in this position, with the majority on the king side, and with the fact that these queenside pawns for the moment are not going anywhere, and potentially they're very vulnerable, rook to d7, I mean, Bobby Fischer, if he was with us in studio, he would be saying, I play this all day. This is like a big advantage. Miro, do the chess engines warm up to the Bobby Fischer advantage? What's their numerical evaluation?
Yeah, well, so the numbers are, like, you have a move which leads to point 33 for white. That's knight e5.
Point 33 only.
Yeah, rook f6 is point 39. So everything is less than a pawn, which you would expect from the equal material. But yeah, and then king g8 is the move as well. Knight e5 is something that I would try because I think one of black's problems in here is the king is weak and, well, no one currently attacking the king, but the fact that the pawns are arranged the way they're arranged, the one on h6, pawn on g7, like makes it that the king is always vulnerable on the last rank and so on and so forth. Right. So I wouldn't mind going knight to e5, g6 and king to g7 and guard the 7th rank. Like, once again, it's a dream scenario. No one's going to allow this, but that's something that
so
black
once again, to put moves on the board, king g2,
yeah,
g6.
Like computer likes this. Yeah, then it's
bishop
g6,
c2,
bishop b1,
or even b1,
and interestingly,
king g7
goes g5.
Oh, sorry,
stopping f4. But then why would you go at g6, right?
Well,
That's computery things.
Yeah.
What kind of still unknown to me, what happens after the most natural, the most straightforward move? Like you go to e5 and go f4.
Knight c4 and then
then
back
it's
to e3.
knight c4, and that's a little video that Yasser done not so long ago about the fork. Right, so rook here, bishop here, knight to e3, very pleasant.
Right.
Okay.
And then the best move is f4 back to f2 to protect the square.
Which is regrettably impossible.
Yeah.
So white is slightly better according to machine, but once again, knowing, you know, how let's say, how well Fabi defends the positions that are defendable. Oh, no, Fabi. Fabi.
Nepo.
Yeah, I keep
both.
Fabi's game. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Well, Nepo, well, not so much, but recently he improved a lot on
His
these things.
resilience is great. And with Prague, I mean, he is a superstar. There is no question about it. I witnessed this myself in Dusseldorf, Germany, when he was playing there. The crowds that gathered for his games in Germany were amazing. And the same is true here in Toronto. We've had some video footage of the fans all wanting.
He certainly has a lot of fans around the world.
Exactly. And he started the tournament with a draw. Then he lost. He was -1. Then he took that incredible risky F5 to win the game, get up to 50%. And if he were to win today, +1, knocking off the tournament leader, that would be outstanding. H2, H3, and as you were saying, Nepo is going to have to play some precise move and show his resilience best. Let's go to the lady section. Let's catch up on our tournament leaders there. We're going to go to the game of tan for just a moment. And this comes from a strange Caro-Kann French defense, Nazi.
I remember earlier he thought he was French.
Right.
And as I'm looking at it, I was like, this looks too good to be French. It's Caro-Kann.
It is a Caro-Kann.
Yeah.
Black has purposefully sacrificed a pawn. Like if we put this pawn on d5, a black pawn on d5, we might think to ourselves, we have a terrible strategic problem. The knight would be on d4, the material would be equal, but we've got nothing to look forward to. With the missing pawn, on the other hand, Black's bishop is actually kind of like screeching down that diagonal. The d pawn is a little bit harassed, and I could feel myself thinking, I've got pretty good compensation for a pawn. What's your take on this one, Nazi?
As a Caro-Kann player myself, I wouldn't be too unhappy with this position.
Right.
Down a pawn, I have to be careful, but I think Black has sufficient compensation.
Exactly. Where would you like us to go on the
Check
ladies?
Lachno's game.
Yes. Now, in round 4, the day before the rest day, Kate +6, cruising to victory. Everything was going her way. She let the victory escape. She stormed out of the playing hall, didn't want to talk to anybody. What's her mindset coming into today's game?
Well, she has no other option but to forget and move on.
Right.
She can be upset about it after the tournament, but right now she's playing Lei Tingzhe, last year's World Championship challenger, and she's actually having a very good position with the black pieces.
She's enjoying an extra pawn for the moment. Why is she having a good position with the black pieces? What's happening here that makes you excited for her position? Queen is on h4. That's disturbing, right? I mean, it kind of like...
Well, if you want me to be honest, I just thought that Engine likes it.
Oh, okay. Well, it's one thing if the rook was already, a rook lift. Like, okay, so go ahead. Oh, I'm beginning to see I've got issues. The desirable rook a3, I stopped myself. Knight c4, rook to g3. That's where I wanted my rook. But you will take my knight, and then the knight on h5 is hanging. In other words, my queen, as we say in the tactics, is overloaded. Knight takes d2, and my queen is defending h5 as well. So you're saying white has a problem building up her attack?
Yes, even if black didn't have an extra pawn, it looks like black would still be okay.
Right.
But they have a good position in their up and pawn, so maybe.
One of the things I learned from watching the games of Anatoly Karpov, and most recently in his match, Magnus had a match against Nepo where the bishop on f8 defended the king and just stopped the attack. The bishop on f8 is a great defensive piece. Extra pawn, okay. I'm warming up to black's position. If you don't mind, Miro, this particular game of Lei and Kate, give me the numerical assessment for
the position we have.
The current position, yeah.
It's
And knight
minus,
g3 was just
and
played.
it's well, knight g3 happens to be not the best move, and even before that, the position you discussed with Nazi Yasser was already serious minus, but almost a pawn in black's favor. After knight g3, it's more than a pawn. Black
After
has
g6,
to play g7, g6, cover
very
5
natural
square. But
natural
if
move.
I'm allowed, like white played bishop d2 here, and it's it's a very straightforward threat, right?
Right.
But you do not expect those to be ignored in a candidates tournament. It was a little bit naive because she could go d5, and same as in the game, just skip the bishop d2 part.
Right.
Black goes knight e5, white goes knight d4, black goes queen h4. Let's pretend all of that happened, and now rook a3 works. There is no bishop on d2.
Right.
If you jump over here, rook goes to g3.
This
White is just better. White has the very typical attack, which, like for our in-the-know viewers, we can compare to those Kasparov's attacks against Karpov in a Zaitsev Spanish.
Exactly. No, I would
looks
swear
very pleasant.
Yeah, I would swear in a courtroom that was a Zaitsev position. So it was bishop d2.
Yeah. Well, according to the machine, yes, bishop d2 was inaccurate.
Right.
After bishop d7, the whole plan no longer works.
Right.
And this is, I'd argue, this is the problem analyzing human games with the computers, because she had the clear idea of what she's doing.
Right.
And the idea was correct. The only kind of incorrect move was bishop d2. While computer, of course, criticizes every single move simply because after bishop d2, the whole idea doesn't work.
Exactly.
Right. So she went with all those, now, well, since d5 no longer leads to an advantage, shouldn't have been played. Knight e5, knight d4, once again, is not the best because it allows queen h4. And here comes the moment of realization, because you were relying on rook a3 and it doesn't work.
Right. Knight g3, g6 will most naturally be played, we would expect. And the current valuation in this position suddenly?
Minus 1.4.
So
black is a pawn up, after all. So it's an extra pawn on the board. And according to the machine, it's more than a pawn. So you knock out this off the board, and black is still better.
Wow. All right. Thank you for that, Miro. Let's just go to the game of Anna for a second, or
Actually,
where
maybe
would you
we
like
should
to
go to Fabi's game.
Let's go back.
He did sacrifice the pawn, as Miro was suggesting.
All right,
with
let's
a4.
do it. I'm going to fish out the game between Vidit and... Wow, and all of those moves were properly played. A4, it's funny, you play a gambit, and the idea of a gambit was to gain time, development, so you could get an initiative. Here, it's like you gambited the pawn to... to get a safer place for your king. There we go. Knight c5 takes on c5, bishop e7. We haven't caught up with the players because Vidit included one, and I think very key move, h4. That basically says I'm trying to put the kibosh on any desirous ideas you might have of castling short, because I'll either play g5 followed by h5 or h5 immediately, and I'll go king hunting.
What would you do here, Yasser? Would you leave the king on e8?
I think I have to, sadly. I may find myself playing a move like rook to d8, but
then it seems like the game will be very one-sided.
True. Unfortunately, the desire for counterplay, a move like rook a4, attacking the pawn on e4, I don't know, having some gross ideas of rook a4, queen a7, that just seems terribly slow to me. Not only can white play f2, f3 and ask me what I'm doing, but it may just happen that my king gets bombed in the center with h5.
What about
if I do castle, let's say I just throw down the gauntlet and I get this position, I'm sorry, but I just hate my position here. This is just gone. It feels really, really bad. So I can't castle.
I was going to suggest queen e5 here. Maybe we can try to get a pawn back.
Yes, that's whether you played rook a4 or queen a5. I think I wanted to answer at f3.
Can take on c5, because if f4, I have the queen
Check.
e4 check. Yeah.
Yeah. And we take.
Then just hoping that without the bishops, my king maybe on the king side won't be as weak.
Okay, so we just have to go one or two more moves deeper. So
Say
rook.
Queen. Yeah, okay. I see
I'm
the
just,
problem. now.
I was just asking if you're, I'm going to try to cut you off from castling, but
That's unpleasant.
maybe it's queen e5. We have a nice little feature on Fabi. He did something that was absolutely fantastic in the world of chess. He won a Sinquefield Cup with what we call the streak. It was a magical moment in the history of the game. Have a look as he went +7 in the strongest tournament ever held in St. Louis.
When we go back to review the 2014 Sinquefield Cup and Fabiano Caruana's amazing performance, it's important to point out that going in, this was the highest rated tournament in history, where the average rating was 2802. All the great players were there. FIDE rated 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and 9 in the world. In the first round of 10 rounds in this double round robin, Fabi did away with the formidable Veselin Topalov, Fabi with the black pieces. In the second round, Caruana with white would conquer the Frenchman Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. The much-anticipated third-round paired world champion Magnus Carlsen with Fabi. Fabi would play with black and would outplay Magnus. Fabi was now 3 in a row, and he would continue like that for 4 more rounds, putting away Lavon Aronian, Hikaru Nakamura, Veselin Topalov again, MVL again, until finally in the 8th round, Magnus was able to stop the runaway train with a draw. The final scores were staggering. Caruana would win the Sinquefield Cup with a score of 8.5 out of a possible 10. In chess terms, that's a 3098 performance rating, the highest in elite chess history. His performance has been compared to the one and only Bobby Fischer's 1970 to 1971 streak, when Bobby won 20 games in a row. The other Sinquefield Cup players were complimentary. Fantastico, Hikaru said. MVL called him ruthless. And as for Magnus, as only Magnus can, called it depressing. 2014 was a warning to the chess world from Fabiano Caruana. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Well, that was a lovely stroll down memory lane. I look young. I'm telling you, I look young, Nazi. And Miro, where is the action, in your opinion? What's going on?
Well, the action is everywhere, of course. I'm once again looking at Prague's and Nepal's game.
Right.
And you know what? As much as
G6 and G5.
yeah,
as you
G6,
predicted.
G5, computerish level of defensiveness from Jan. I'm checking 15 minutes he's left with, and it's already moved 32, so it's not too far from, you know, completing time control.
Right.
The best, according to the machine, is to return the bishop to f5 with only 0.3 pawns advantage for white. So
Once again. But you were recommending this yourself. You were thinking black Jan should play king G7.
yeah, rook to E7
Rook
perhaps
E7,
to start
control
with, to
the-
control the 7th rank, to go
Right.
king G7. And I can see, you know, potentially once again, black wouldn't mind perhaps just exchanging his 2 pawns for white's one to bring
right.
it all to one wing.
Right.
And you could see potential of, you know, this bishop and the rook pawn not winning at the very
Right.
end. So there will be a lot of kind of end positions which are in black's favor, right? So exchange all the rooks, it's an immediate draw.
Exactly.
So black can hope. Black can hope to hold.
A time advantage of 30 minutes, but it doesn't feel like this is a position where that time advantage really is meaningful.
Already, I think you can play in sort of a schematic way, right? With black. So you
King
can,
G7, rook E7,
rook E7,
rook
king
E8.
G7, you know, maybe
Everything
leave
on
the
the
rook to
black squares.
F6, yeah, start trading. So
Right.
you're not that afraid of anymore.
Right.
As for the most exciting, I still think at the current moment it's Fabi's game. the one you've just discussed, and
rook a4.
we've gotten new information. Rook a4 was played.
Whoa. I kind of discounted that move simply because of f3.
Because of f3, and right you were. f3,
What's next?
White is much better. Computer was suggesting to take on h4, which looks suicidal. Well, apparently black is not lost immediately, but this is not how humans play chess.
Right.
Pardon me.
We'll
now
see
it
castle.
does look at the castle short.
Because you've got a2, h5, you've got counterplay on
h5,
a2.
rook to
Can double on a5.
rook f to a8. It still looks scary,
I
if
take
you
on
ask me.
g6 and you take
Takes on
a2?
g6 and takes on a2. And
Wow.
you know, one of those things that rare occasion that computer might be wrong.
Because
You know why? Because, well, it could be like not deep enough, and I'm thinking, what happens if
Two rooks.
if I take the rook? And and computer's laughing at me immediately because queen in this position happens to be better than two rooks. Yeah. So if this were to happen, then queen a5, and immediately, king goes back, and b4, and threatens b3, and all the, That's why we humans refuse to play against the computers. We understand better, but they're stronger than us.
Exactly. By the way, immediately, without much hesitation after rook a4, no f3 by Vidit, he played bishop d4, essentially challenging Fabi to play the move e5. Provoking e5. I mean, because essentially Vidit is saying, I do want you to castle. I really want you to castle and walk into my uppercut with h5. I understand you want to take my pawn. I don't want to pause and defend it with f3. So I'm going to play bishop to d4, which blocks the attack. It threatens the pawn on g7, and I'm ready to unleash h5. But now the question is, I understand you, but what if I play e5 to be followed by rook takes e4?
Yasser, what
Please.
if black does castle instead of e5?
Okay.
I welcome your h5, and now because we have bishop on d4, I have this tempo move rook d8.
That's annoying.
So if you play h5 here,
Which I desperately want to do.
rook d8, and forcing a
d8.
lot of trades.
Pause. Yeah, I mean, why did it? Well, doink. I'm coming to the conclusion
I
shouldn't have played. Yeah, I shouldn't have put my bishop. I don't like queen c3 walking into rook c4. I don't like queen e3. Just looks a little awkward as well. Let me take that back. Can I play queen e3 here, Nazi? Just ask you questions.
It's a bit awkward. Bishop g5 might work. Might be losing also.
Bishop g5. Wow, I thought I had that square covered. So after queen g5, you're just ready to welcome a trade?
Yes, and then after h takes g, I will probably resign.
Okay. Queen e3. But here, for sure, you've got ideas. You can be playing for rook a2.
Can I play queen d7?
Wow, you can play... Okay, now my spidey sense is tingling. Can I take on g7? Deep breath. You have to take on d1, yeah? I take on d1. You take on d1. I have king c2. So
queen h6 is coming, right?
Yes, that was what I was dreaming of, queen h6. You spotted it right away. Bishop d4, double-edged move for both players, it would appear to us, Miro. What's going on after bishop d4?
Well, not that easy to tell, to be honest.
break it down,
What I can tell you, and perhaps the viewers, you should be impressed with my colleagues' tactical skills, because you guys got pretty much everything right.
Dang.
So castles is the best move for black. e5, you were wondering what happens after e5, it's queen to g3 pinning the pawn, and for whatever reason this is very strong and perhaps the only move to get the advantage. Yeah.
Wow.
And after f6, it's not only you've attacked e5, but now you have this tempo that you do not yet have to move the bishop.
Right.
And you use it for going g5 and threatening
Opening
g5 takes
position.
here. Pawn is hanging with the check. Okay, this is out of the way. After bishop d4 and castles,
Okay.
well, computer is not sure itself. Is it a3? Is it h5? White is better everywhere. But the line you were looking at is also spectacular. So h5,
Right.
then perhaps queen f4 is somewhat more tenacious, but rook d8 is one of the top lines.
Okay.
And queen e3 is the one and only way for white to keep the advantage. I was looking at this funny move.
Yes.
I was looking at this funny move because it looks that white comes up with a beautiful combination, right?
Yay!
Rook check, and then swing the
Rush.
queen and
Bishop
check and
H4.
checkmate on h8.
Thank you.
Right, but
Give me my
bishop
reward.
blocks here
No,
and goes here.
no.
And you don't have the bishop, but that's a good thing because now the king got the square on e7, right? So if bishop wouldn't block here, but just go, yep, that would be a checkmate on h8 because this square is not here. So coming all the way back after rook d8, queen e3 is the strongest.
Right.
And now, like various very colorful tricks, like rook d4, bishop c5, for instance. You would think you're winning, right? I mean, the rook's pinned. There is queen g3, attacking the queen, and when the queen takes, it's a check first into mezzo.
Right.
A sneaky move, and
Swish
yep,
zug.
yep. And white is an
Exchange
exchange up, and probably not such a hard conversion to.
Right.
All right, so
Beautiful
this is
variations.
it. Bishop d4, Fabi is the move. Well, alternatives to castle, to be honest, not so many. There is a move queen f4,
That's
which
annoying.
also
isn't it?
like attacking something.
Right.
f3 white has to play, and still you would castle, but that's another story. Right? You
Exactly.
castle, white's going to go h5. Fabi is in trouble. That's the bottom line.
As we prepare for our break now, see, what is the clock times and the move numbers here? Where did
In
that stand?
Fabi's game?
Yeah, because we just saw the move bishop d4. Both players are down to their final half hour, it looks like, right?
Right, Fabi has 29 minutes, Vidit 20 minutes left, and still 18 moves to go.
That's a lot of moves.
They can easily end up in time trouble.
Absolutely. And we've reached that time in our show that we like to check in with our friends at Q Boutique and see what their specials are. Well, here it comes. Gear up for the newest apparel from the St. Louis Chess Club with this official branded puffy vest. Features the Chess Club signature logo across the left breast pocket, 100% polyester, and do all your shopping needs at qboutiquestl.com. And as we go on our break, Anastasia and Begum went behind the scenes to catch up with some of the VIPs at this year's candidates. Please take a look. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Hi Christian, it's great to see you here.
Good to see you, Becky.
You're here with Fabi as his second, and you guys have been working for a long time, and everyone knows that, it's not a secret. How do you guys approach the candidates? And then did you guys do something different this time?
We've been training quite a lot, and now it's time to show off the skills that he acquired in these last few training camps. I mean, it's he has a very good mentality in that he's always looking to improve, right? You can reach 2800, 2850 for so many years, but he still hasn't lost that motivation to make progress, and that's very, very important.
Yeah, and also Fabi mentioned that you guys with a lot of preparation and
Yeah.
a lot of waiting. Do you think it is affecting him like more anxiety, or because he's prepared more? You know, it seemed like, yeah, it's kind of nice that the waiting is over, but
Yeah.
what do you think, how he's feeling right now?
I think he's feeling good. I mean, of course, the waiting is over, and that's important. The anxiety is building up as you go through the weeks and months before the tournament happens. But yeah, he's feeling good right now. He's preparing well during the tournament. It's very important that he maintains his energy levels. I think this was crucial in the last candidates. He kind of ran out of energy towards the second part of the event, I think. And I hope that that's not going to be the case this time around. So this is something that we're trying to figure out exactly the best system to approach is. Maintaining the energy levels, the preparation is good. So I think, yeah, it's all up to him right now.
Thank you so much, Christian, and good
Thank
luck
you,
with the
Becky.
tournament.
Thank you. Thank you.
Emil, thank you so much for coming here, for joining us. And of course, the first question is, we're in Canada, the tournament has started. How did you come up with the idea to have this tournament here in Canada?
Hi, Anastasia. Actually, it has been a long time idea to bring some really top event to North America, because for a long time in North America, neither US nor Canada hosted really very top event of official stature. Of course, St. Louis hosted a lot of great events, but these events are special, being a part of official World Championship cycle. And luckily it materialized, and thanks to mostly the support of Scheinbeck family, who have been supporting top events, top FIDE events for many years now. But partly also due to our will to bring it to North America, because you remember last time we had it in Madrid, and now we felt it would be good to bring to American, in a way, American, when I call continent public, and we have a lot of people coming down from US. We have people, of course, a lot of Canadian public, and it's great. I think we should aim staging more and more top-tier events in the region.
Absolutely, and I think everybody is happy also that we have two American players participating, Fabiano Caruana and Hikaru Nakamura. Do you think that this is what brings a lot of attention to this event?
Partly yes, but mostly the status of candidates, because it's an emblematic tournament. It's an event which has been attracting public's interest since the very inception in 1950. And we had so many iconic events and candidates. It's really a brand, you know. It's almost as good as brand as a World Championship match. So obviously the very participation of two such great players like Fabi and Hikaru is important, but I think the event for itself has a name, meaning, history, and whatever behind it. And let's not forget about women. I mean, for the first time we have women and men playing together, and 8 exceptional players, and it also adds very special feel to the tournament.
It's a great event. We're looking forward to the next games. Thank you, Emil, once again. Hopefully speak with you again a little bit later in the tournament.
Sure, anytime, and I want to pass my greetings to St. Louis Chess Club. I remember the very first big event in 2009, and I had the privilege to be a commentator there in the first championship, US championship hosted in St. Louis. And I hope one day St. Louis will host also a major FIDE event. We'll be glad to host it there.
I'm here with Mike Klein, who is actually the voice of Chess Kid. Also, he's here as a journalist for Chess.com and also FIDE Master. Mike, how is it going for you here so far? Do you enjoy being here for the candidates?
Yeah, I do, because 99% of the time I'm doing Chess Kid work, and the grass is always greener, right? So it's nice to be able to talk to the world's best players and get back into my old life as a journalist. And I think, in the time I've spent in the journalism world, the players are starting to realize that giving more interviews and being more forthcoming and being, real personable people helps their brand. So I actually think that my job is easier than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, what makes this tournament special, so special from all the other top events?
Well, it's unpredictable. I don't think Nepomniachtchi was predicted to win either of the last two. And there's so many stats involved in getting a hot start but falling off. I mean, who could have predicted Fabiano having this great start in Madrid and then falling off? And then we had the Magnus issue last time. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Just second place count. Qualifying here. Remember, Ding Liren had to play these games in China. Alireza had to do these crazy things to get into this event. So because it's so long, there's just no time to rest on your laurels and protect your lead. You have to really show great form for an entire month.
Exactly. And what about my last question? Are you happy to have this event in Canada, in Toronto? It's the first time that the Candidates tournament, since it came back in 2013, moved to the American continent.
Yeah, I usually go to Europe 6, 7, 8 times a year to cover the big events there, so it's kind of nice. Not my home country, but it's my home continent. Yes. And the fact that it's happening during the eclipse, we get that special added benefit tomorrow. So it's neat to have them come to our side of the pond, and not quite a home game for me, but it's a different atmosphere. Although I kind of love Europe, and whenever my company is going to pay for me to go to Europe, I usually jump at that chance.
Of course, yeah, but you also have 2 American players. Is it so important for having American players in this event too?
Yeah, if one of them qualifies, that would be huge for a lot of what we do. There's no secret that Chess Kid and Chess.com, a lot of our market is US. But hey, if an Indian qualifies in this tournament, the World Championships in India, that's great for chess too. So I'm a journalist, trust me, but I can't deny the fact that if certain players did well, it might, grow chess even more depending on, where the World Championship ends up being located.
Yeah, this is a very optimistic idea. And let's stop here. Mike, hope you will come back to us again. Enjoy the tournament, enjoy your work here for Chess.com. Thank you.
Thanks, Nasia.
The stages are set, the players are primed, the best of the best are ready to face off in the 2024 Grand Chess Tour. The top players in the world prepare to battle across 4 countries for a $1.5 million prize fund. Everything starts in Warsaw with the Superbet Rapid and Blitz Poland. Then off to Bucharest for the Superbet Chess Classic Romania. The players then travel to Zagreb for the Super United Rapid and Blitz Croatia. The tour concludes with back-to-back events in St. Louis, Missouri, the chess capital of America, for the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz and the Sinkfield Cup. 9 players will go in, but only one can be crowned champion. Who is prepared to make history? Get ready for the return of the Grand Chess Tour.
I'm Grandmaster Maurice Ashley. Join me on October 24th to 26th for the St. Louis Chess Conference, to be held right here in the chess capital of America. Also featuring legendary world champion Garry Kasparov and Hall of Fame inductee Judith Polgar, the conference will explore the broader educational and social impact of chess. Early registration ends April 30th. Go to stlouischessconference.org and sign up today.
Welcome back, everyone. We have some very exciting games going on currently.
We certainly do, but the breaking news, it's all about Fabi and Miro. When we left it, we did not like the move e5, the move that was played by Fabi, because of Queen g3.
And this is on the board, yes, e5 and e5, to say Fabi's credit, would have been a great move if not for Queen g3. But Vidit immediately played Queen g3, so he's seen it. It's a pin, as I've already highlighted, which not only guards the bishop indirectly, but also wins white a very important tempo in case of f7, f6. White doesn't have to move the bishop, will go g5 and almost winning attack. And even with the help of the computer, I can't find the position which is playable for black. So castle perhaps, castle perhaps, and then white has such a variety of moves. Once again, a reminder, the bishop is not hanging, so you in fact can play h5. h5, and for instance, in case of rook d8, now bishop e5 with the tempo, and you know, white is winning in so many ways.
Wow.
Or rather, white's advantage consists of so many components. Up 2 pawns,
right,
for the moment. Maybe he loses c5, but up 2 pawns has the attack. Trade the queens, you're winning anything.
I thought that castles, something like castles, if you took on e5, I was going to go queen a7 and hope I could stir the pot with rook a2.
Right. But now after queen a7, I would have to react.
Right.
I can't play h5 because of rook a2, right?
Exactly.
So, and once again, computer still says that white is winning, but this is something that us humans would consider as counter chances, right?
Exactly.
You attack me, I attack you. Who knows who's faster?
Right.
Like right now, immediately b4 for black after a3?
Yeah, after a3,
that's what
b4, and then again, I'd be scared. But computer says you are not fast enough, and goes h5 and claims that white is totally winning.
It's totally winning. Wow.
Okay, so we are back here. Move 23. Fabi, both of them, in fact, got 18 minutes, 18 moves, so a minute per move. But Fabi has to kind of take a very, very serious decision here.
Okay, and also, again, just to remind our viewers, this time control there is no 30-second increment. The players lose on time because they're used to getting that 30-second increment. 18 minutes for 18 moves, that starts to get the players nervous. If it's not f6, if it's not bishop f6, if it's not castles,
it's not much left.
Well,
right?
where do you want me to go?
Left. Yeah, I mean, there are like on a second choice, according to the machine, is a very depressing move, queen to c8. I mean,
that's
obviously you
depressing.
won't play this.
Right.
So do we think Fabi missed queen g3, or he didn't find anything better?
Well, it appears so. It appears so because, like, if you play 5, that one of the first things, I mean, if you've seen queen g3, one of the first things you are planning against is, of course, queen g3. So by now he would have played the move, I assume.
Right. See, one of the things that happens, what you might call chess blindness, this is a perfect illustration of where the chess blindness comes from. You have this position as black, and you're thinking to yourself, well, what moves is my opponent white going to play? And you pretty much establish to yourself that h5 is a kind of move that white wants to play. A move like f3 is a move that white wants to play. And you don't have it in your mind that queen g3 is a move that, why would white play queen g3? That's a ridiculous move. So you've cast that move aside in your mind. So then you start thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute. I don't like the fact that my pawn on g7 is on pre. I don't necessarily want to play f6. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to play the move e5. And you've already blinded yourself to this idea of queen g3 because it never entered your mind.
So Fabi expected bishop e3 back
Bishop
here?
e3, just simply retreating, and maybe he was calculating to take the pawn or castles. But once queen g3 has landed, he's suddenly in some really difficult moments. And let's, queen a7 already played, by the way. I just wanted to say we could analyze the avenue of f6, g5 for a moment, because here in this position, I want to take and capture on g6 with a check. Is there something I can do in this particular position? Is this completely crazy, Nazi? Imagine queen a7. Let's say you take the pawn, yeah? Let's say I recapture, bishop takes.
Take on g6?
You can take on g6, I'll move my king, and I'm banking my whole position on rook takes a2.
King on e7 is not bad.
Not bad. Maybe you don't have to take on, you could take on e5, but then
Rook a2.
Rook a2, and I'm stirring the trouble again, stirring the pot. None of this happened because as I was about to look at f6, queen a7 is on the board, and we have rejected this, Miro, for I think a number of reasons, but what is the valuation now? I mean, it must be terrible.
The evaluation is terrible. However, after only one, queen takes e5, which is the most natural move in the position, one would argue.
Of
but
course.
anything else is equal at best.
Equalish. Yeah.
So queen takes e5.
Rook
black
takes a2.
Yeah, I mean,
No
if black
choice.
doesn't take on a2, his play doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
And then
now
something.
I want to defend a1. Can I play the move b3, or is that ridiculous?
You can play a move b3, but then after
lose
rook
my-
e2,
I lose my advantage?
Bishop b2 back?
yes, you do, because you have to play bishop b2, and that's
Which
the
I
only
thought
move.
was a good move.
And black plays f6.
Okay. Queen e6.
Queen e6 and queen to c5. And this is according to the machine, once again, and I have nothing to do with this position whatsoever, but according to the machine, it's already equal.
Wow.
With the only move rook c1. Otherwise,
Right,
black
of
is
course.
winning.
Well, rook c1, I cover c2 check.
Pardon me, there was a misclick. So rook
Yeah.
c1, but also attacking, queen to d6, and the rest is not as exciting.
Yeah, we
Stands game.
trade.
Yeah, white trades, and it's an endgame.
So it's not b3. It's queen
It's
takes
not b3.
e5.
Yeah. So here, after rook a2, white, according to the machine, can take on g7 with a tempo. So there is not yet any perpetual, and the rook is hanging with a check. So black better go rook f8.
Okay.
But here, the moves computer is playing is either king c2 or king c1, which is far from being trivial. Like you go king c2, for instance.
And you run.
Yeah, like check, and you go king d3, and perhaps just run to safety.
But the crazy part is the queen and bishop on the long diagonal protect b2.
Yep.
So the rook on a2 is actually...
It's actually stuck. Yeah.
Right. And that's a beautiful defensive
This
play.
is very hard to find, especially with 15 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, I'm checking all the
definitely.
lines, you know, and it's like in practically every line, the computer says that you can play g5 first or h5 or anything, but all the time it goes king c2, d2, and runs away. Whoa.
Seriously, I
We do have
just go,
two moves on
wow.
the board.
Yep, queen
We do?
captured on e5 and rook captured on a2.
So the key moment is here. Will Vidit just take on g7 or play b3, which, as we analyzed, is not a good move?
Yeah, it's sort of like, and it's such a natural move too, because you're thinking, I don't want to run with my king. Queen takes e5, I find, queen e5 takes g7, I find myself looking at that, but then I might go down the wrong line and start calculating, yeah, but what about checks and checks? And
There's always b3 and bishop b2.
and that's the thing, that, exactly, and then I'm really, really happy. So I would find myself here, and I would find myself here, and now not to play b3, but rather to just start running with the king, king c1, king c2. Nazi, I got to tell you, I find that that's very difficult.
It feels like white has too many options here, because black doesn't have immediate threats.
Right, queen
And
a.
that's actually a problem.
So yeah, like if we get here, you can't take on c5, not only because you're hanging a2, but more saliently, queen e5 check. Oops. So you can't take on c5. And this is not a threat
Just
at
a
all.
check.
I'm happy to walk away from the action, and as Miro
You could
was
play
saying,
b3 as well, maybe.
yeah, but also happy to walk. And instead of g5, this move, king c1. Wow. Because if my king ever does land in safety, eventually h5 just, thank you, and that's
King
the game.
c1 is very...
Wow,
computer
18
move.
minutes. Make that, how much
So we
then?
have 16 minutes for Fabi and 13 for Vidit.
And that 3 minutes went by very, very fast for Vidit.
16 more moves. But in this
Wow.
position, I feel like in 16 moves, the game should be like very decided. It's either equal or white's completely winning.
Yes, I agree with that, that by the time the players reach time control, I will expect a result.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's the most critical moment right now.
Wow. And what's about our tournament leader, Nepo? Is he still defending that difficult ending he had with Prague?
Well, the game is still on, but
Yes.
the ending is no longer difficult.
He's defended it nicely.
Yep. So remember the position we had,
Yes.
and he has played all the moves that we were calling, like rook to e7, king to g7,
Right.
rook to f6.
Yep.
And,
Everything
well,
on the dark squares.
Absolutely.
Checkers.
And now that I'm thinking, perhaps Prague couldn't find the most precise way of putting some pressure at the very least. Yeah, knight to g6, a pair of rooks was traded, and I think as we agreed that the more rooks you trade, right? I mean,
Better.
trade another set of rooks and black all of a sudden is better.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
King
bishop
F8.
b4, a5, knight to g6. That's the position on the board. Black king is cut off, but apart from
There's
that,
only one rook.
he has little to worry about.
Right.
And in fact, what computer does in this position captures on g6,
Wow.
which probably means it's nothing.
You know,
here.
I'm forcibly reminded of the game between Gukesh and Nepo. In that game, Gukesh had the two bishops.
Right,
He, he defended it beautifully, did Nepo. And again, with the knight, he's holding the tough games, and that's tough positions where you're worse. Very impressive play by Nepo.
And today especially, it was much worse. At some point, it was more than +2. So this is a
Indeed.
big save for Nepo.
I want to just check in on the other two games. How is
Gukesh's game, actually.
Oh, Gukesh,
'cause,
perfect.
A lot has changed since we last looked at it. And
Well, when we looked at, we actually thought that black was about even. somewhere around here, we thought that what Nijat was going to do was recapture with the queen, play rook e8, hack all of the rooks off the board, made a draw. In fact, he allowed Gukesh to get complete domination of the e-file, and suddenly we thought white was seriously better. On break, weren't we looking at g4
Yes,
together?
here there was an option for white to play g4.
Which was kind of an attractive-looking move so that we could land our rook on e7 and our queen on g6. He played c4, d4. We're going to catch up with the players.
So now I think the d pawn has become isolated weak pawn.
Isolated weak pawn. Is it, though? I mean, passer?
Depends how you look at it. So
It's all about your perspective and point of view, right? So I'm seeing this powerful pass pawn. You're seeing isolated weakness. Okay,
right, 'cause I was
gotcha.
looking at queen d3. And
Exactly. Okay, well, we'll keep it. And by the way, there has been a repetition between the players.
we have some breaking news.
What's happening
Fabi's
in
game.
Fabi's game, Miro? We do have queen takes g7.
Right, so we do have queen g7, rook f8, and then while you guys were discussing how unnatural king c2, king c1 is, maybe I've casted the move, because I was looking at what human move can you play. Like your king is in danger, and normally you don't want to run with the king. So I was looking at bishop e3, which is a bad move, have to confess. And the other move I was looking for is like, we've taken the pawn, let's go back, let's pin the bishop, centralize the queen, which is a bad move as well. So now Fabi's to move, and his task is to find queen a4, threatening rook
Very
a1.
natural move.
After which, believe it or not, but that's it.
King
It's
C1?
equal. It's equal. King c1. King
check.
c1 loses to this check.
Oh, no.
King goes, trade on d1.
Oops.
No, I just misclicked. Yeah.
right.
So trade the rook on d1, and black is winning because of this little move f6.
Bishop is
Wow.
And
undefended.
queen, as much as it's nicely placed in the center, it can't keep connection with the bishop. Yeah, you have a check on b8 and you resign after king f7. The queen is hanging and the bishop is hanging.
That's
So,
embarrassing.
Right, so
Yasser.
after queen a4,
Which has happened.
it turns
if I go
out
queen
that
d8 check,
you can give a check, and black blocks with the bishop.
there is nothing
And
besides
there is
perpetual.
not much you can do. So you
Prepare.
can give a check, bishop back. You could play b3 to keep the game going, but after queen b3, bishop b2, there is no guarantee that you're a stronger side.
No.
After f6, right?
Compy says it's equal though, like go to c3, white trades, black trades, takes on f2. But I think psychologically it's very hard to continue the game where you know you were winning, you've perhaps blundered this queen a4, and then to play a move like b2, b3 in this position.
No, that's
I'm
not.
afraid this is not going to happen.
By the way, 12 minutes to 10 minutes. We've seen Vidit burn a lot of clock in this event.
And I think for Fabi, it's not that difficult to find queen a4 because I don't think he has any other moves, really.
No, in fact, when you think about the position with the queen on c7, I mean, leaping queen c7 to a4 is a dream come true.
Absolutely.
So, like, my queen was passively placed on c7, and suddenly it's threatening mate in one. Queen
Right.
a4, I think, is a very easy move to play.
If you want to know, the second best move for black, according to the machine, is king e8 to d7. Just to highlight how desperate
it's
the
losing,
situation
right?
is. Of
Yeah.
course, this is
going to-
complete nonsense. Yeah,
Right.
but this is it just shows that queen a4 saves the day. All the rest is terribly lost.
Terribly.
And queen a4 is on the board.
And by the
No,
way,
no,
rook, no.
Yeah, queen a4 was just played. Queen a4, queen b8, bishop d8, queen e5, bishop e7. We have it. So move 28, Vidit to move, and it seems that we're going to have a draw.
We're going to see a perpetual.
Just a second. I mean, guys, come on. We've just worked so hard. We've won 2 pawns and queen a4, and I've got to go for the perpetual. That move, f7, f6, once again, just to remind everybody, we've been looking at king c1, and this is the cold shower moment. Rook takes d1. You think, I've got everything under control, and the move f6 drives the queen away from the protection of the bishop, and from a winning position, we go to a lost position in a single move. That is really the cold shower. So essentially, getting out of the checkmate requires us to play b3, giving back a pawn. King c1 loses, and we have to take a perpet. Queen b8 check. That's essentially it.
It's very hard to judge Vidit for playing queen e5, because if we didn't have the engines, would we play king c1?
No, it's definitely not. You have to overcome a great deal of prejudices to play king c1. So normally you take a stand, right? I castle kingside, and I don't want to run away. And we have seen, by the way, repetition twice. We might be getting that for the third time. Something you said, by time control, we'll see
Game
either a
over.
draw or game over. My instinct was for b3. Wrongly, as it turned out, that would have equalized. But yeah, king c1, king c2, not the first that comes into my mind. A big save for Fabi, Miro.
Right, and while the game is technically still in progress, even though I believe Fabi doesn't have to play bishop e7, he can claim that after his bishop e7 it will be a threefold repetition.
I see.
Yeah, but what I wanted to mention that queen e5 ironically worsens the position of the queen, because had white done pretty much anything else, there wouldn't be a draw for black.
So in this position, the
move
irony
that
is...
Yasser suggested, g5 is still winning for
you go
white?
g5, queen a4, and then white can play king c1, because this line doesn't. This line with f6 doesn't work. Check. You just go king d2.
Right.
Trade the rook. White's still winning.
Exactly. So the queen is actually terribly placed on e5. On g7, it's hidden and rather untouchable, the move g5. Because if you were to ask me what moves do come to my mind, what's a human move, for me, I must confess, I also find h5 to be a very human move. Now, in this case, the problem is I might be giving, up the g5 square, but I would find the move h5 to be more compelling than, for example, g5. Eventually, I think I might convince myself that king c1, king d2, and getting on my sneakers is best. By the way, 8 minutes?
No minutes.
I think we're just waiting for Fabi to claim the draw.
No minutes. It's official.
It is
we had,
official.
It is a draw. Yep.
Yeah.
And a draw agreed. Woof. Again, oftentimes, we say, to be victorious, you got to win all of these games, and you outplay the competition. No. A lot of times, you're champion by simply going undefeated.
Absolutely.
Not losing bad positions. This was a bad position. Let's go to the game of Gukesh.
And today, as you're mentioning,
he could be tied for first.
Right.
Should he?
Because both Fabi and Nepo are saving. Well, Fabi already saved his game, and Nepo almost done with his game as well. Looks
we
like
expect that to be the case.
Saves for those two.
Let's see what happened. When we left it, Nasi, we had seen a couple of repetitions, and then Gukesh said, wait a minute, why am I repeating the position? I want to play rook on e1 to e4. Nasty little move, by the way.
Right.
I see rook f4, I see knight takes d4. I also see a kind of an X-ray, if you will. Rook e4, rook d8. I'm ready to sacrifice my pawn on a4 to get the pawn on to d3. Let's quickly catch up with the players. Rook f4, d3. Give me that guy, says Gukesh. Queen a2. Well, this looks terrible. King h2.
The only problem is Gukesh has less than 2 minutes for next 6 moves.
Less than 2 minutes for the next 6 moves, yes. And
so if he has easy moves to make, of course he'll make it. But if this is still very tactical and complicated, he can mess up.
Well, speaking of messing up, do you understand the move King h2? Because at the moment I just don't. Why didn't he capture on f5? I assume rook takes f5, right?
Right, and then
Am I
D2?
assuming?
Oh, D2, and if you take knight D2, never mind.
Well, no.
Queen B1 check, king H2, and then D2.
Yeah, maybe this is
And
what.
you can't take on D2.
Exactly, exactly, because the f5. So he played king h2 as a preliminary move.
Right, so now if black plays D2, you can just take knight D2.
And then capture on f5. That makes a lot of sense to me. Let me just refresh my board for a moment. And what's the clock times once again?
So Nijat has plenty of time, 15 minutes, but Gukesh, less than 2 minutes, and next 6 moves without any increment.
Ooh, king h2. But on the other hand, Miro, this looks like white all day, all day.
Yeah, White's completely winning. And yeah, king h2 is one of those like good enough moves. There was like queen b4 was marginally better, but king h2 and exactly the best line for black means d2.
Okay.
And that's very good for Gukesh because, as we said, one of the main concerns by this point is like having 1.5 minutes for 6 moves. But here, here's your one move, here's your
number 2,
here's your second move, and black pretty much forced to trade. So
That's
here's your
3.
third move. Not from g4, but takes. Yeah.
Right.
Black has to take at least
one pawn back.
Pawn here. Queen f4 is good. Well, check and queen f4 is not so good. Well, however, it turns out, in the end of this longish line, queen f4 is the only move which gives substantial advantage.
But that's an easy one to play because you defend f2, you threaten rook f8.
Well, queen c4 was an option, so he could include that check.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I was tempted to say, this is move 38.
Right.
Very common practice would be this check. It looks like it doesn't change anything, so I better give it to be closer to the time control.
Right.
For whatever reason, after king h7, there is a certain difference. Now we are no longer threatening queen d8.
Check.
Rather, rook f8 check. And queen d4 is what black is doing. And that's quite curious, right? So if you trade the queens, white is pawn up, but it's a rook endgame, and the pawns are weak, right? Pawn on a3, pawn on c5. So this would present black with reasonable drawing chances.
Right. Exactly. King h2 on the board, that 15 minutes has melted down to 13. Again, 1 minute and 51 seconds for 6 moves, but I'm seeing king h2, and again, if d2 is the best move, well, those forcing trades get to a very nice ending, I want to say, for white.
Also, if you want to switch to the
Please.
ladies section for a moment, there's one big change in Lachno Lay's game.
Okay.
When we left it, Lachno was looking very good.
Okay, let me
But
just...
I see now they reached time control and things have changed.
Okay. They've changed a lot. I mean, we went from a Benoni-looking position to voila. But we do have...
Looks very even now, right?
No, Kate is not a piece up. I thought she was because she had such a good advantage. She's worse, or isn't she?
It's about equal, I think, right?
Why? What is equal?
Queen c3.
Knight takes c3.
And let's say knight d4.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's 3 versus 3. You're right. I apologize. I'm thinking I've got 4 pawns. No, I don't. Well, that is a very, very big change because she spoiled. This is the second game in a row that Kate spoiled a very, very big advantage. Oh, she's going to be kicking herself mightily.
But Miro, could you help us, tell us where she...
Where did it go wrong
let
for?
go of her
Well,
advantage?
honestly, I'm looking at like last 6-7 moves in the time trouble, and black was completely winning on, say, move 33, and was okay, and then move 37, for instance. Yeah, after queen b3, black is still, even the material's equal, but black is, according to the machine, black is winning with some. Queen g5 and then moving the h-pawn. Bishop e5, queen d5. Once again, one more chance to go queen g5. What she has done, knight f5. So this is move 39. After knight f5.
This is where
pretty much any move, but not what she has done. So knight takes f5, queen e5, and it's equal.
Right.
That was move 39, so must have been time trouble.
Of course. Of course. That doubtlessly a factor. Wow. So knight takes f5, queen takes e5, queen d2. Could she have just simply had a blind spot for queen c3? I mean, when you play a move like queen d2, you sort of like you're hitting everybody, right? You're hitting this guy, you're hitting this guy, and you're thinking to yourself, I've got this winning tactic. But queen c3, if you don't spot it from afar, it's sort of like, oh my gosh, the desirable bishop takes e2. Pardon me, I have to take first, takes, and I come up empty-handed at the end of the day. I haven't won anything. It's like, where did my advantage all disappear? That's what's going on in that game. And by the way, they did play this. This is actually the current and live position after rook takes d2, e takes f5 is on the board. Let's go back to the open section, and this time we're going to jump away from the Gukesh game. Let's jump into the
Firouzja Hikaru game.
All right, yes. I mean, Hikaru, well, he's currently languishing in the back of the pack, if you will. 8 minutes for Hikaru, 2 minutes for Firouzja. And what do we have on the board?
And they have 3 more moves to make until time control, so Firouzja is not in that big of a time trouble. But in the current position, isn't g5 a move? Oh, there's queen f6, because I was...
Well, wait. I mean,
c6?
Yes, exactly.
Oh.
Wait a minute. G5 attacks the queen. Queen to f6, hitting the pawn. More importantly, hitting that pawn. Rook here. Now, I do have this crafty little move, knight f5.
Nice.
Just in time to take your queen, because at the end of this variation,
Don't
check.
go to g7.
Don't move to g7. I end up winning a pawn. That's great. So g5 actually is a trap that Hikaru should not fall for. g5, queen f6, and knight f5. But jump in, Miro. We've got 2 minutes for Alireza, 7 minutes, just a few moves. What's the evaluation?
And I see that Engine actually still recommends g5.
Yeah, like
Still, nonetheless.
g5, queen f6, and rook c6 would be falling into a trap, but queen d8 is marginally better for black, computer has to say.
Really?
Or rather equal, yeah. Black can't take on h6 because now you do have rook c6. Knight f5 is no longer, a double attack. So, well, it still keeps going. I'm not sure if it's
because of g5
that pleasant for white. So computer suggests some rook takes d5 and whatnot.
Turn me down just a rook.
The main would be white capturing on d8 and just playing this position, knight f5.
Wow.
Roughly equal, but a lot of material still on the board, of course.
But let's pause our analysis and jump over to Anastasia in Toronto.
I'm here with Fabiano Caruana. Fabi, you just made a draw against Vidit, but went through some troubles, it seems, after the press conference. You know what happened. Can you go through the game and show the most critical moments? You decided to actually sacrifice this pawn. What do you think about it?
Yeah, well, I didn't like my position because he has the center, he has good pieces, and if I castle short, then h4, I start to get attacked very badly. So I thought at least, okay, I sack a pawn, I get counterplay.
Yeah.
And my first intention was actually knight b6, but then I didn't like this sacrifice.
Wow.
I was very scared of this. So then I played this because I thought I have some compensation, which might be enough to perhaps equalize at some point. Rook a4, bishop d4. I think that he was playing well, but I blundered terribly with e5. I mean, maybe like queen f4, for example, and okay, I see already the computer's still not happy, but at least I shouldn't play e5. I should do something, maybe castle, I don't know, at some moment, but e5, queen g3, and I think I'm just dead.
Well, you just missed this queen g3.
Yeah, it's a terrible blunder.
And then just a blunder, yes,
and then I
f6.
thought maybe f6, but then g5, I didn't see what move to make.
Actually, I mean, what to play now, king f7? I mean...
Yeah, but king f7, he always has queen b3.
Ah, queen b3.
Also,
yeah.
and also he can like play rook g1, like take with the pawn, and then rook g1 or something, I don't know.
h5,
I just felt like it's somehow losing. So I went for a gamble with queen a7 because I thought it's still like difficult and we're low on time, so maybe I would get some chances. But I was thinking maybe b3 was winning here, but I see the computer doesn't like it, so I don't know. Maybe I have some resource.
No, we're just humans, right? I mean,
Yeah.
computer shows some crazy line with king c1. I mean, you said you
Yeah.
even saw it during the
No,
game,
this
but
I was
it's hard
actually-
to believe, yes?
Yeah, I thought king c1 because now after queen a4 he just runs king d2.
King d2, yes.
And this is like well protected.
Yeah.
And if he gets the king to kingside, then I'm just dead lost. And if f6, he always has this check. So his queen gets to a good square. So I didn't see what I do here. But then he shocked me with queen e5.
Yeah.
And for a second, I almost thought I'm winning.
Yeah, because let's say you don't bring your queen, yes, normally back.
Yeah. Because the point is that, like, if f6, then he puts the queen on a very good square here.
Yeah.
And then I don't have counterplay because queen a4, there's always like this b3 stuff.
Yeah, and queen is protecting b3, yes.
So I play first queen a4, and if he doesn't go for repetition, he probably loses.
Wow.
Like if
okay,
king c1, rook a1, for example, I trade, and then very important now f6, and his queen has to give a check, otherwise he loses the bishop, and now he's attacked, so he still loses the bishop. So then he had to go for a draw. And I like briefly considered this move, which is it's losing, but it's not like
immediately. Yes.
it's not immediately obvious how it loses. But of course, it's crazy to do this, so I went for repetition. I was quite lucky to draw anyway. And
did you feel during the game that actually it was so lost as the computer shows now?
I wouldn't have been surprised if you told me it's like +3, +4. I wouldn't be surprised. I didn't see exactly how clear it was. For example, this king c1 movement, I didn't know that it's like completely dead lost.
Yes.
But I did feel like I should be losing this, and it's only after queen e5 I was fairly certain that I have a draw.
Yeah. Now that you play this a4 move, sacrifice the pawn, do you regret it, or you think it was the right still decision to do?
I think in the opening, because at this moment already it's like
Unpleasant,
bad
yes.
position. So maybe somewhere here, or maybe I was starting to wonder maybe that I should take first and then play e6.
And then you have the same position, but not this pawn on g6.
Yeah,
Yes,
I wasn't sure, but something went wrong. I don't know. I misplayed the position. Maybe I should trade queens.
Also possible. It would be easier.
That's probably equal. I don't know why I wanted to keep queens on. This is of course much more healthy, and I'm maybe slightly worse, but more or less equal in the endgame. So queen c7 was too ambitious. I was a little bit too ambitious, I guess.
So my last question, of course, cannot stop asking you about Andrea Bocelli visit today, attendance of the game. What do you think when you saw him? What were your emotions?
Yeah, we met for like 1 minute before the game. So
apologies, we're just having a little technical difficulties with transmission. I wanted to jump into the game of Alireza
against Hikaru.
Thank you so much for bailing me out there. Miro, the players are in time trouble. But they made how many moves?
It's 39 moves.
39.
Yes,
I have one left.
I don't know. My gut feeling is these pawns on e5 and f5 look, maybe, are they scarier than they appear to be? Because if I could get rook e1 and f6, I would be thinking, I've got a big attack.
So it's Alireza to move. That's his move 40.
Right.
Rook e1 is what he has to play.
Sure.
And then Hikaru has to go knight d7.
Okay, so rook e1 is the... Well, first of all, pawn on e5 is hanging.
Pawn on e5 is hanging. Therefore, rook to e1.
And I'm threatening this in my mind, I've got f6 as a massive threat. But knight d7 prepares to deal with that because there's a pin.
Giving the d5 pawn, but taking the
And then I
e5.
have to play e6, or...
You can.
I could play e6 even without rook e1, right?
All right, just a second. Let me go back. Nasi has a suggestion.
Yeah, you can play e6, but then queen takes.
Take on f7.
Alireza has made time control. This is not bad for Hikaru. Hikaru is going to be happy with
for
that.
black.
Rook e1, by the way, rook e1 was Alireza's move, and that's his move 40. Hikaru still has to make the time control. He's got 2 minutes for it. Knight d7 is actually really forced. I mean, again, I'm seeing f6.
What's knight c4?
Well, you can do knight c4 as well.
No way. I was thinking d5 is hanging, but
D5 was hanging after knight b7.
always. It was always hanging. Good grief! I don't even have time for queen g3 and rook g4. So yeah, it's like I'm dreaming of f6. I'm dreaming of queen g3, rook g4, but knight c4 as well as knight d7 hitting e5 provokes a reaction. I guess in this case, I would go e6. I'm assuming you would take Nazi. I will recapture. I don't know. What do you think of this ending?
Black looks completely fine.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But for both of these players, they're both in a situation where, you know, a draw really is not helping their cause. Just seeing their rook e1.
Hikaru still thinking.
Let me just refresh my board. Apologies, everyone. As I rook e1 on the table.
It's 35 seconds to make a move. He's probably choosing between knight d7 and knight c4.
For me, I would have played knight d7.
And we have it on the board.
And we do, indeed. Looks very equalish after all of the tumult.
Right, and I think on this note we can say that all the players reached move 40, time control. So here, knight d7, and for white, two possible captures on d5 or a move e6 that we were discussing, but nothing. It's equal in all the possible imaginable scenarios, which, as Yasser absolutely correctly, spot on pointed out, neither player likes that much.
No.
Like making another draw and being once again on -1, sharing, tying for the last, and it's already 5 rounds past.
Let me just interrupt and say Jan has achieved the desired result. He's got a draw. Standings, if you don't mind, as we reach the time control so far. We do have Jan drawing his game.
Right, so he will have 3.5 out of 5.
Right.
In second place, coming into this round, we had Fabiano Caruana and Gukesh. And in the clear,
they'll both have 3. Right. Jan will have 3.5. Fabi
and Gukesh is still playing.
Pardon me, you're right. Fabi will have 3. Gukesh is still playing and enjoying an advantage, I must say.
Well, actually, as you just mentioned it, I think Gukesh blew his advantage, right? And time trouble on move 40.
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. So that's the position we've seen, right?
Change.
And we're looking at various d2 and so on and so on. Abasov played g6, and objectively, it's not a sound move. But on the other hand, knowing that there is still 6 more moves before the time control, you know, it was a very practical
gamble.
Yep. G6, and till some point, Gukesh was spot on, but then rook to e1, and quite an understandable decision, if you ask me. That's, you know, that's the enemy, the d pawn running. I want my rook on the first rank, but this happens to be a mistake which gives away a half of his advantage. All logical later on, well, especially for the time trouble, you know, like you can criticize each and every move a little bit, but he was in a time trouble. He was playing reasonably good moves. And knight d2 was sort of okay. And this is the last moment where either rook f4 or returning back to f3 would keep the advantage. Yeah, king g1, knight e6, and computer is merciless. It says like, okay, 0.3 for white out of 2.5 that was 7 moves ago. So 0.3 means white's slightly better.
Right.
The game goes on, but it's nowhere near decisive advantage.
Whoa. And I just had to ask a question. In your analysis there, Miro, once I saw the move queen f7, and I recall what you were advocating for, g4, g4. You just put your queen on f7. You walked into a pin. Why didn't Gukesh jump at the opportunity for g4?
Yeah, it was possible. So black is kind of does not resign for one reason only, because he has a trick with d2, knight takes, and queen to c7.
Okay.
And a soft pinning both rooks.
I have to go, I guess, knight
Yeah, you
f3.
go back to e7 and something like knight h4 is possible?
Knight to h4.
That's
Very
crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. That's crazy. Knight to h4.
That is, wow, even with queen b3 checks. And
White
all
is
kinds
winning, though. White is winning. Now, after some thought, computer says White is winning by losing the exchange and then capturing g6.
That's 3 pawns.
Yeah, check on b3. Wow.
Nice. So,
Yeah.
in fact, the move, the
Your G4
desirable G4 actually is a winning move
Not only the winning, but the strongest move in the position.
as well.
Yeah.
So in time trouble, it was quite the gamble, and if Nijat saves the game, well, he can thank his lucky stars that Gukesh didn't have the time to work out the move G4, because the current position, as I see it, that pawn on D3 is actually isolated and powerful. The pawn on C5 is actually a target, and suddenly, you know, Gukesh was cruising towards victory, maybe a tie for first. Had he converted his advantage, that will be a stunner. Does that clear all of our results in the open section? I just wanted to say, just as no, this is for the ladies.
Yeah, we have. So we already have 2 results.
2 results. Yes,
the 2
because of
games
course
going-
Bobby drew. Sorry.
The 2 games going both look quite equal at the moment.
Once again, this time updated. Our crack graphics team has got the updated standings with the 2 draws. Take it away, Nazi.
Right, so at the moment, Jan Nepomniachtchi is still in the clear lead with 3.5 points. And only Fabi at the moment has 3 points in the second place.
Gukesh is expected to draw.
At
he
least.
could have been sharing the lead, but should he draw, he will be at 3. And the game between Alireza and Hikaru seems very, very balanced, not helping either player. And in the ladies section, do we have any results from the ladies yet?
We have 1 draw. Lachno and Lei Tingzhi drew their game.
They have made a draw in their game. Okay, so we have 1 draw there, and let me go and see other games here.
So in the open section, both boards just made time control, so they will use their time to find their next plan. Let's take a look at the Muzichuk game in the ladies section. We haven't looked at
in a while. And again, Lei and Katya drew. Ooh.
earlier, actually, a couple moves ago. It was a very beautiful position with all the pawns on the board.
All 16. So
Almost.
Almost.
Almost all.
they're quite the pawn structure here, as that's a protected pass pawn on G3. I mean, my gut instinct is this must be winning for black.
Extra pawn.
But it's such a powerful extra pawn. But you still...
Is there a fortress?
Yeah, that's the weird part. There might be some fortress type positions. Obviously, I would like to have my rook on G5 and my other rook on G8 so that G2 is a constant worry, and my king on D6. But there, well, no. I mean, it must be winning, isn't it?
I'm not convinced. Seriously. So the situation is such, computer claims it to be -1 for black. -1 means an extra pawn. We already know that, right? We can count.
In my expert opinion.
Yeah. And if we try to go for something like this, and originally I thought, yeah, king blocks the pawn, and then we got, but now it's rook G2, rook G5, king E4, and then you hover with the rook on the F file, and it does look to me like a fortress.
Wow. So
yeah,
rook
I mean, you bring the other rook,
rook F3,
goes rook F3, rook
H8,
whatever it goes,
right?
H8 or G8, and white just waiting. White is just waiting, and I can hardly see the way for black to break through. I mean, I can imagine preparing B5 at some point, but this also means like black taking some risk, or maybe a certain amount of risk.
Wow.
So for the time being, it does look like a fortress.
That is a beautiful construction. The rook on g2, the king on e4.
Yep. So king goes to e4, and this is somewhat counterintuitive.
Right.
I guess you would agree with me.
Yes.
Right. So you see this pawn, and rook is known to be like a terrible blocker. So you want to block it with the king. Yeah, but it could be wrong.
Active king and passive rooks. Great fortress.
A good general leads his army into
Right.
battle. Rook g8. This is the key moment.
But that would be
The Shali finds rook g2.
and king e4, right?
She has to overcome her prejudice.
Rook g8 is played,
which is like you were saying. You blockade with the king. Your rooks go active. In this case, rook g2 and king e4. Impressive.
If Vaishali saves, so there is a certain pattern. So previous round, both Lachno and Muzichuk at some point had totally winning positions, and
Right.
both let it slip.
Right.
So now Lachno was completely winning, and
Again.
we already know it's a draw, right?
Right.
And then Muzichuk was completely winning at some point in
Right.
this game, and if once again she doesn't win, it's such a blow to the confidence of a player.
What a theme, a very unhappy theme. By the way, a game where I thought two of the rating favorites coming in between Humpy and Aleksandra, we didn't see much of that game. Apologies to the players, but that game also made a draw.
Right, ended in a rook ending, and we have one more game going on in the ladies. Zhongyi, the tournament leader, and it is also a rook ending. Looks very drawish against Salimova.
Exactly. Takes, what are we looking at? Two? Well, I mean, there's a criminal, a runaway criminal, this pawn on e6, right? That we have to
It's
deal
a bit
with.
scary, but
I
I like
like
this last move.
very much.
She played rook h4, which
Very
is nice.
much. I like this move as well. First of all, e7 is a kind of a dirty trick that e-pawn might have slalomed up the board and made a coronation. But rook h4 also, so that when we end up taking with a check, we're also not just eyeballing rook e4, we're also eyeballing the pawn on b4. That was a very nice move. Was it the only move?
Oh, no, not really. So
Unfortunately.
the other one, which I think in a way is methodically correct, is to go king f6 in
King
such
f6.
positions. So the only thing you have to watch out so that the
E7?
pawn is not promoting after e7.
Right.
Right, because you want to clarify if pawn takes pawn, you go back to g7, and then the
Right.
pawn is not going anywhere. And e7 is the only thing you have to watch out for, but then you just give checks, and if the king, say, runs forward, you have more checks, and put the rook behind, and it's still
Fine.
it's still a draw, yeah.
Gotcha.
It's still a draw. You just don't take on e7. Let's say after b5 you run with your own pawn. And, yeah, that b5. Oh, wait a second. I'm lying to you people. Rook e7 actually wins according to the machine. I wouldn't take. I would just play h5 and make my draw, but rook e7 is even better. Okay, this would not happen after king f6. Like you take on f7 with the pawn. And it's a draw.
Right, you go back to g7.
Anyway, this one looks like Salimova was keeping her cool, and she never really got in worse position.
Okay.
By the way, Vaishali did play rook g2. She found that
The fortress.
Wow.
Whoa.
Hat tip on that one. That is a very counterintuitive move. But once you see that the king on e4 stops, e5, e4, then you start to really appreciate the fact that the king is so well placed on e4. There's no e5, e4. We get this position, what we've been discussing about the fortress. White just moves her rook back and forth between f1 and f3. Pardon me, I'm going to put this rook. I should make a move for white. Apologies. Rook f3, rook h5, rook f1, and you've achieved the maximum. The king is maximum placed. There's no e5, e4 breaks because the king is not on g2. It's blockading, and these things just simply don't work.
What's really funny is that if it wasn't for rook f3, rook f1, you wouldn't have a wait-in move.
Right. So, for example, if
Because if you move the other rook, then g2, rook g3 immediately comes in.
Right, exactly. If I triangulate brilliantly with my king, and your rooks Yeah, if you didn't have that, it'd be
Just lost.
Zugzwang,
Wow.
as our producer Tom loves to say, Zugzwang. But a draw in the offing here. What do you have for us, Miro, in the open section?
Let's check. We had
updates on Gukesh.
Yeah, updates on Gukesh. So after 96, only one move was played. Rook
Only
to
one move.
E3. And
That
let
was
me
it.
check. Yeah, well, it's one of the moves that kind of keep this minimal edge. Knight
takes
C5
C5.
has to be played, and queen to C4. Well, okay, it goes down and down. The white's advantage goes down and down. It's almost equal. And honestly, following the moves computer makes in those lines kind of suggests that this will never happen, because like
G5.
black goes G5, white goes G3, so no one seemed to care about this D3 pawn. That's
I
honestly,
care about the G3 pawn.
First thing, right? First thing we do. Like we surround, we go before we take.
Right.
Well, yeah.
We say taking care of business, first of all. Get rid of that D pawn.
Yeah, Aleksandra.
But G5, G3.
Well, G5 sort of understandable. Then you know what G3 means. Turns out black can go knight D7, and pawn is untouchable because of knight E5. So
Makes sense.
black can remaneuver, and we can't really, as white, we can't really take the pawn. Yeah. So all in all, I think that's the only game which is kind of gonna go forward. It's maybe our first game ever in this tournament, yes, now that I'm thinking, that after the time control deserves the assessment unclear.
Right.
We
Three
know,
results.
yeah, like we know with the computer white's slightly better, but a lot of pieces, kind of some of those unstabilizing factors, so to speak.
Right.
Black has the passed pawn. It's all about the passed pawn, right? Is it a strong asset, or it's a liability that you lose in some variations?
Exactly. We have been witnessing that so much, Nasi, in this event, as the players do reach the time control. And it's like the decision is basically made at this point.
Right.
It's like a 2-result game or a 1-result game, draw or win for one of the players. And this is a position, a rarity in this event, that it's still a 3-result game. While we think draw is the most likely result, in which case Gukesh will be sharing second as opposed to be sharing first, should he win. And for Nijat, I think Nijat is somehow very pleased with himself. He has he's gambled a little bit with the Queen F7, and it worked. It worked.
Right.
You somehow take a little bit of a pride when you manage to save a bad position.
Yeah, and something to say about Nijat is that he might have been the only one before the start of the tournament who kind of accepted the fact, yeah, I'm not winning, I'm here to kind of put up a good fight,
Right.
and so on. And so far, even though like the result, he's lost a game, he hadn't won a game, but he's holding not worse than the other guys.
Exactly.
Right? So
3
he's
draws,
fighting,
yeah.
and
And
it's
there
a
we
good
see,
tournament for him.
He qualified by playing exceedingly well in the World Cup in Baku, the huge knockout event. He made it all the way to the semifinals, and because Magnus Carlsen withdrew from the candidates, he got an entry into the event. He's making the best of it.
Absolutely. And we heard from Hikaru's interview that he is even competing sick.
Yes,
So he's not in good health and still playing this well.
exactly. And there you see Nijat today playing a very important role, I want to say. It's not that you just, against your key rivals, you get good scores or something like that, but you really do have to beat the players at the bottom half of the table. One player who is exceedingly good at doing that, Bobby Fischer. If you look at the cross tables of a lot of Bobby Fischer's tournaments, you do see that he drew a lot of the players in the top half, but he was a black plague of death to the players in the bottom half of the draw. He would often go, 5-0 against the last 5 players in the tournament, draw against his most closest rivals. And Nijat is playing a role of a spoiler. How about Hikaru
How about
and
Hikaru?
Alireza? What do you have for us in that one?
Well, that was after move 40, and we agreed that there was a choice to take or to go e6, and some little subtleties. Okay, anyway, Alireza played e6, queens were traded, knight went to f6 immediately. Yeah, computer, of course, has to say that king f8 was just as strong, like the knight is not really hanging. You know, anyway, knight f6.
Nice.
Rook to d4, and Hikaru went king f8.
Right.
Well, it has to be equal, but computer slightly favors black.
Slightly
And
favors black.
I'm guessing, yeah, for the fact that like kind of both sides' pieces are relatively fine, relatively okay, and since say the major pawn structure is happening, like black has the d pawn, white has the e pawn.
Right.
Black king coming to e7 and potentially d6 might be a very useful piece.
Right.
King f8.
I can imagine that. Like, even if we were to trade pawns, f7 takes e6, f5 takes e6,
And
king gets to
f7,
d6, and the pawn on e6 is suddenly isolated liability instead of a pawn.
Honestly, I imagine one of the few
Yes. maybe
ways
it's time-
kind of to force matters
Maybe it's time
should
to
be
shut down.
should be played. So you just go rook d1, pawn takes. Now like rook takes, bishop d5 should be equal.
Right.
Computer insists on black being somewhat better by going rook d8 and still insisting on bringing the king to e7. But
That's
then,
clever.
yeah.
But here you have to be sure that the
like rook b1
that the pawn
happens and
doesn't
so on.
survive.
Rook
You know.
somewhere to b7.
Right.
I wonder if Hikaru is going to do this. Let's say
That
if
might-
we have this position with rook d1 on the
Rook
board,
d1.
and he can just liquidate to the absolutely dead draw rook endgame, will
Right.
he
Do it.
try to push? Yeah, will he try to push with black, or he'll say like, yeah, okay, Alireza is not the guy I was supposed to beat with black at first place, and
Right.
let's postpone kind of taking actions.
the
We'll see.
discussion there. Thank you, Miro, on that one. It's well, again, I find myself drawn to this game of Gukesh, and
We do have a couple of moves after rook e3.
let me refresh my.
Nijat played knight c5, and we have queen c4, just as Miro suggested.
Right.
Now, will we see g5? That's the question.
That is a very strange
There's
move for
so
me.
many more logical moves than g5, right?
Truly.
What about b5? I don't like queen on c4. Let's play b5.
Okay. The drawback, as I see it, is that truly, as white, I do want to play b4 and I do want to grab this pawn, right?
Right.
And when I play the move b4, I'm imagining that I'm just going to kick the knight. The problem is I'm seeing with the move your c6 pawn. You've
True,
weakened
but
your c6
I can
pawn.
play queen g7 here.
Queen g7. Okay.
Just a little update. Vaishali did save her game against Muzichuk. That fortress worked, and that game is officially drawn.
Wow, nice fortress. I can take and get my rook to c7, check, king h7. I don't know. That is a good point. So b5.
Maybe you should go queen c1. As passive as it is, at least it avoids the trades.
I do like the idea that black's king is a bit more vulnerable than the white king, so retaining the queens, I like it, Nazi. And queen c1, you've got you won me over.
Don't believe black has any serious problems in this position after queen c1. When with that pawn on d3, white's passive pieces, how can black be worse?
Because of the king. You'd be surprised. Play a bad move. Let's play a really bad move, and I can easily explain. With the knight, rook f3 and knight f6, you would rather have your pawn on g7 than g6. So there's something vulnerable a little bit with black's king. Obviously, but it's funny that the computer, it's funny that the computer wanted to play the move g5. Let's just have a look-see And for
It's
me,
like
the
a
move
positional
G3.
mistake, right? We're
Right.
playing the king side more.
You're absolutely right on that one. It does look like a positional mistake. But let's have a look-see. Okay, G5. How should we go about it? If we go B4, aren't we kicking the knight to a safer square?
Well, knight e6, rook takes d3, and then I guess...
Okay. So you think knight e6, rook takes d3, and we're good.
Actually, black could have played knight d7.
Knight d7,
To stop
however...
rook d3.
Exactly. Rook takes d3, knight e5 is embarrassing. Whoops, as we fork the queen and the rook. Okay, so b4, knight d7 isn't something that black necessarily has to fear, right? So I'm not going to play b4, but I'm kind of stuck for a move. Is king f1 a ridiculous move? It's like I kind of want to, and there we do have some moves by Gukesh. Let me just refresh my board.
I don't think we do.
Oh, sorry, it's still the same.
It's still the
Queen
same,
c4.
right,
That's
queen
some old footage that I was just looking at. Queen c4. Jump in, Miro. We're struggling.
Me too, yes. Believe it or not. Yeah, I know the answer, but I don't know how computer comes to this answer. So my guess would be the G5 and the move computer plays kind of
G3.
one of the moves plays in reply G3. So G5 connected with sometimes with going
Queen f4.
Queen to f4, or rather having an option of going queen to f4 if, let's say, you were to, I don't know, unblock the pawn or something.
Right.
Well, then b5, the move you were discussing, is a legit move. There is nothing wrong with it. And interestingly, queen to c1 was one of the good replies for white.
Right.
And the more computer thinks of it, the more it's nothing dramatic, but evaluation rises in white's favors. It starts at 0.20 and then goes to up to 0.40, which I assume still it means some longish line. Say pieces traded, maybe white wins white wins the pawn but doesn't win the game.
We do have a
right.
move. Knight e6 was played in this
Knight
position.
e6.
Just giving up the d3 pawn.
Whoa, it's a red move. It's a red move. Rook takes
That
d3.
looks like a real.
Yeah.
Wow, you're just. I mean, you're waiting for
Inexplicable, to be honest.
Wait, I think I said the idea. Rook d3, b5?
Rook to d3, b5.
Rook takes d3.
And if you go queen c3, I have knight f4.
Oh.
And rook e3,
you got
right you are, because if not for rook e3 here, black would be winning.
But after rook e3, white is just up a pawn.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Because there's some tactics here, right? Wait a minute.
Well, I don't have to take.
No, take the pawn. Knight f4. Are you playing rook g5?
No, Miro suggested rook
Okay,
d3
let me jump in.
Rook d3.
So let's start from here. Yeah, knight e6 looks like a blunder.
Blunder?
And I believe white, but actually not forced to take. But taking the pawn on e6 on d3, pardon, is the strongest move.
Okay.
And black relies on b5, and the queen has to guard the rook, right?
Queen e4.
Options are queen e4 runs into knight to c5 fork.
That's
Cannot be played.
That's
Queen
embarrassing.
c2 runs into queen f5, and
Is that
I'll show this one. Yeah, queen to f5, rook c3, and then trade the queens and knight d4. It's a beautiful tactical sequence, and the rook is trapped.
Wow.
c3 or c1, knight e2 wins.
Check wins.
Okay, so we go back to this b5 move.
Right.
But what happens after queen c3, one's asking? In this case, knight jumps to f4.
Right.
Rook e3.
So the threat, I mean, we can take the rook, but then,
knight
cost
e2 again
of
happens. Rook e3.
Rook e3.
Rook to d3.
Rook to d3. And again, rook takes d3, knight e2 is embarrassing. So we have to move our queen.
Queen to c2 is the only move.
Okay, but I'm still a pawn up.
Queen d5?
Yeah,
Queen
and
d5, I have knight f3.
Knight f3, yeah. So white is lucky in a way, because the feeling is that black squeezes maximum out of his pieces, like has threats and so on. And white is lucky not only not to lose, but be better. And then there is a line with rook takes e3, pawn takes, knight e2 check.
This looks lost.
And this looks lost for white, but now king h2, check here. Maybe there are other moves, but the computer says the best is like check here, king h1, knight g3, king g1, and white runs away, and he's a pawn up.
Wow.
That's an amazing tactical sequence,
Right.
and it's not that easy for Gukesh.
He might not take on d3.
Yeah, well, specifically, I want to say, yes, if your opponent kind of gives this pawn to you,
Right.
if you were to play b4, kick the knight away, and then, okay, now I'm taking. But here it feels like you're being the prey. Yeah? So your opponent goes knight e6 by himself. You start calculating those lines. You understand there's a lot of tricks. Okay, these players, they are capable, of course, of calculating everything. But yeah, it's an interesting moment.
Well, wait a minute, just a second. I mean, I'm feeling it for the audience here. Just a second. I have extreme sympathy for the audience. We're seeing knight e6, and the computer gives this double question mark. And then we're seeing all of these tactics where white is walking a very narrow path and not losing, you know, at every moment. And every moment there's a cliff, you know, like you just lose. And at the end of this very, very, very narrow path, you're slightly better, you're pawn up with white. Boy, that's a big criticism. Double question mark?
But that's the thing, Yasser. I'm afraid that a lot of people getting, you know, carried away analyzing with the engine and the engine only.
Right.
When it says, well, that's a double question mark, terrible move. And, well, you think, yeah, well, those guys, they don't know how to play chess. and then it turns out it is a mistake, but you have to see, like, few tactical patterns and the variation 10 moves long, and then at the end you're winning.
Wow. At this moment, if I start calculating all of those moves, I am not going to say I'm terrified, but I'm saying I start to look for some alternatives to capture the pawn.
I want to suggest an alternative.
Please,
what about
Nazi.
rook f3 here?
Rook f3, okay, that makes some sense because you're still...
I want knight e4 and knight f6.
Right.
It's a good move.
Rook f3, so the queen, let's say we bounce.
Probably too slow because of the d pawn.
Right, let's say we bounce. We're going to go knight e4.
Maybe d2.
d2. And knight f6 check, we just happily...
King g7.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. And then even if we take the queen, well, let's go. Let's go. What's wrong with this,
d1
right?
queen.
And then we go.
H2,
I mean,
rook
e6 is hanging, so we can take.
What if I play knight g5 first?
That's a nice tempo, but don't
Queen
forget.
c3.
Yeah, don't forget the king, right? That was where I couldn't work out where the king belonged.
Queen d4.
You know what I'm going to do? How's this for? No, still queen d4. I was thinking if you take, I was x-raying g8. That's very, very, very nice. This is crazy. Knight e6, I start looking for alternatives. Miro, if you don't mind, jump to the game of Hikaru for just a moment, because did Alireza decide to shut things down and play bishop takes d? No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
He did not. He let Hikaru.
What did we see? We see this one, right? And yeah, king f8, and this is where it felt. Yeah, let's just liquidate to rook endgame.
Rook
now,
d1.
Alireza went rook to d2.
Okay.
Which allows black to capture, go king e7, rook b2, rook c8. So rooks are doubled in order to cover the 7th rank.
Exactly.
If white goes rook b7, black goes rook c7. Bishop to f1, knight e4, and all of a sudden it looks more and more promising for black.
Yes,
because this guy, well, cannot be taken right now, but yeah, like because of f3, let's say the knight would be pinned, but potentially is in danger.
Right.
It's hard to see the scenario when this one is running forward, right? And the horsey might jump to, say, c3. The d pawn all of a sudden starts to be quite dangerous.
This is where I think Hikaru is underrated as a practical player. He's very, very good in the ending, and he's very good at recognizing opportunity for himself.
Right, and not only good in, I'd say, not only good in technical endings, winning, which he is, but also in those kind of slightly better putting practical problems, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
some people would say, okay, there is nothing to play for, let's just straight agree a draw, but he keeps finding those, unpleasant little moves for your opponent and, for his opponent in this case.
As does
White
Magnus,
has to force some trades here, bishop d3, otherwise...
Right. That's
right.
what computer suggests. Bishop d3, rook to c1.
Bishop to d3, rook to c1. Yeah, I'm following you.
Then some tricky lines because, let's say,
rook takes.
What would be human reaction? Take on c1, right?
Yeah, that would be
rook takes, rook takes.
King to g2.
And
knight c5.
Oops,
knight
sorry,
to
I just slipped
c5 or d6, in both cases being better for black.
Yeah, I mean, if we were to evaluate this position, black's king is better, black's rook is better, knight is better than the bishop, and the pawns, black's about to win one.
You had me. Black's about to win a pawn. I mean,
it's very unpleasant.
Very, very, very unpleasant, and very easy move to find rook c1 and knight to c5.
And Firouzja will be in second time trouble. Of course, now he has 30-second increment, but still unpleasant position and in time trouble.
Right.
It's a lot of pressure.
To remind our viewers, when they get to the second time control, that's when they start getting their increments, right? They get the 30 seconds. After move 40 or move 41, they'll get 30 seconds from here on out. And, well, I mean, for Hikaru, this would be absolutely, absolutely huge. It would get him to 50%. He would win with the black pieces. It put a lot of confidence back into his campaign to become challenger.
And in the latest section, we have all the games finished, all draws today. I think it's the first time every game ended in a draw.
Every game, and whenever you're the tournament leader, in this case, Tan, well done, everybody. Just keep drawing all your games. We'll get an update as nothing changed. And that was, for those of you joining us late, this fortress that Vashali had against Anna Muzychuk. How big an advantage did Anna Muzychuk have in her game? Because at one point we thought she was winning, but did she ever have something like as she had in the previous one, +4 or whatever it was?
Yeah, I think right before, around move 46, there was this breakthrough with b5, I was checking.
Around move 40.
Later, after the knights were traded.
After the knights were traded. So this is the game between Anna and Vashali.
Just before she took on d5. Here she had b5 move.
Nice that it was imperative for Anna at this moment had not seen the fortress, and it's easy to miss, right? Because there's a pawn on e4. So you don't, in your mind's eye, have the idea that white can hold this position, but you're saying b5, and what would that have given her in terms of...
It opens up b file?
Yeah, no, I understand, but in terms of a...
I think it was -2.
-2. Okay. So what happened, actually, and it's very easy to fall for, if you don't see this rook g2 idea, with this idea that the king is going to come to e4, and then there's nothing that you can do about just white setting up with rook f1 and rook f3. That was a really remarkable find, and Anna, again, lets one slip away. With all the games done, where do we stand?
Let's take a look. After 5 rounds, we have Tan Zhongyi in clear first place with 3.5 points. And in clear second, Aleksandra Goryachkina with 3 points. So standings haven't changed since every game was
all the games are drawn as
3 players share in third
50%.
place.
And 3 players trying to get back. I'm looking at the bottom of that cross table there with Anna and Humpy, and I'm just saying, wait a minute. Weren't these the pre-tournament favorites? Aleksandra notwithstanding and Tan notwithstanding. I'm really surprised by Anna and Humpy both at -1.
But yes, we should remind everyone that we have Brother and sister both playing in this candidates tournament.
A very, very unique.
Of course, it's first time ever.
Ever that a brother and sister play in the candidates on the same stage. And I wonder what that was like, raising two prodigies. The older sister there, you think the older sister was whomping on her younger brother for a while before roles reversed? Very nice.
And it's the first brother and sister grandmaster duo as well in chess history.
First brothers? I mean, obviously the
sisters we have, of course.
Many
But brother and sister.
Right. I'm thinking
really
examples of brothers grandmasters
the
or
Byrne brothers. The Byrne brothers.
sisters as well.
Polgars, obviously.
Yeah, but, so it's never been.
Come on.
Wow.
Come on.
Wow, amazing.
Come on. Okay, candidates I can believe, but you would think that a women's grandmaster, international grandmaster, okay.
So did
The pawn was taken.
The pawn was taken.
Yeah.
Show me.
So back to Gukesh and Nijat Abasov.
By the way, Gukesh took a lot of time.
Can't really show much because there's
5
only
minutes.
one move being played. Gukesh is down to less than 5 minutes, but that confirms once again how hard it was. It wasn't like I can take this pawn too with 2 pieces and it's only protected with 1. That's why I'm taking. Yes. So he made sure that he has calculated all the lines. By the way, yes, just a sideline which would be enough for me to reject the whole thing.
Rook
C5, Queen B4, check, Knight F1. Are we really like enjoying this kind of setups? Not necessarily.
Enjoying is
Right.
not exactly the
But
word.
it turns
I would
out,
use.
yeah, black doesn't have the follow-up. Like Knight F4, it's already check on the 8th rank.
Yes, and I saved myself. Yes.
So I assume the original plan of
B5.
Abasov would be B5, and we see...
Right. And that was the Queen C3,
Queen C3.
Knight F4.
But the intriguing part is that there is no such thing as letting the advantage sleep. You can find the only move and you'd be better,
Right.
or you play something else and you lose on the spot. I mean,
you just
that's
lose.
one of those unique positions that there is. It's very hard to make a draw in this position.
Right.
So Knight F4, again, the same situation. Rook E3, strictly only move.
Right.
After Rook D3, Queen C2. Well, here Queen A5 is an alternative. The move no one would be looking at. Yeah,
would
Queen
want to
to
stay at
C2.
home.
And here Black has options like Queen F5 is not that bad, and also the one Rook E3 and check on E2. And
Queen D5.
Queen D5, pardon.
Yeah.
Queen D5.
You're threatening G2.
Knight to F3. Okay, let's look at this one. How bad would this one be?
Well,
Takes
G6
over
is hanging.
here. Yeah, Knight D3.
More or less forced. Yeah.
Knight D3.
I'm a pawn up.
Yeah, pawn up. Probably winning, yeah. Slowly, should be winning.
Wow. But again, it's sort of like you're following. I always thought of this as kind of riding the tiger. You're in the situation where you've sacrificed, you're playing an attack, and you're going down a very narrow pathway, but you can't fall off the tiger's back. He's going to eat you. So you have to find each and every time the only moves as white. Rook takes D3. That was a dangerous pawn to capture, but
And
Gukesh has done
spent,
it.
I think about 10 or 15 minutes before he made that move. So
Understandable to be very, very cautious. When your opponent, when these top grandmasters throw a pawn at you, you don't just say, thank you, Merry Christmas. You go,
Absolutely,
"Oh,
yes.
oh, oh."
That's the argument I was making. That, well, that's, one of the things, it's exercising your own confidence. But do you believe your opponent has seen that you don't?
Right,
Or you just okay, you calculate, you trust yourself,
right,
and say, no, I'm going to take.
right,
Maybe he has something, but I don't see it.
right.
Well,
and we have B5, Queen C3.
yep, B5, Queen C3 is on the board. Yep, Knight F4, Rook E3 on the board. So
We can
both-
expect Rook to D3 to
Does
follow.
Black have Rook G5 here? Is that an option? Or?
It is, and you know what? Let me see, because it's some.
At some point, I'm
It's
actually...
not an option.
No,
Yeah,
no, at
it
some
is
point I'm
winning,
very
but you have
actually-
to take on C6, so you're giving away the G2. So that's why I'm kind of once again a bit skeptical, because maybe the lines are not that hard, but from afar, you do not look at any variations that would involve sacrificing the G2 pawn or giving away the G2 pawn. Queen C6, the second best move is Queen A5, the third best move is Queen to D4. That means none of those defends the G2 pawn. It's incredible.
Wow.
So after Queen C6, let's say Rook takes G2, White just plays...
King F1.
And
This
there's
looks
nothing.
like almost like a checkmate. No, that's such a narrow path.
The queen is on H1, yeah?
Whoa.
No,
F2 looks like it's about to get mated.
well, no, if you had played against me, Nazi, Rook G5, I'm playing G4 almost in a flash, right? Just because I don't want to play, but am I playing Queen takes C6?
Knight D5 is a move.
Oh, there's
So Rook G5 is a double attack. I just figured out. Rook G5 is a brilliant move.
Because it is.
It
a
loses,
double
but it is a
attack.
brilliant move.
A losing brilliant move. Wait a minute, that's an oxymoron.
So Gukesh must have seen this move and probably calculated this as well.
Right.
Besides Rook D3.
He had to have, because Rook G5 is an attractive move. Anytime you see those double attacking moves, you think about them, right?
There's also Knight G2 after Queen C6.
Yep.
All right,
So
let's
let's
have a
check
look,
this
see.
one.
Queen
takes, Knight to G2.
Here,
And then
fortunately,
it's a check.
I know I have Rook G3,
King H7.
but can I also check with the Queen?
Yes, I think so. No, it's not on the list. Yes, I'm sorry.
No.
It's not on the. It's equal. It's
I
equal.
took a
Trade
big
and King
advantage.
F7.
Yeah, I took a big advantage. Okay, so check.
So the path to victory would be give a check with the rook, and
Yes.
then King H7 has to be played,
Okay.
and then Knight to E4 or Knight to F3.
Of course,
Knight to
E4
E4
is tempo,
with the tempo.
and Knight F6 also.
And this is it. Yeah.
And this is it,
This
yeah.
one's winning.
Wow.
It's a
We
tricky
do have
little
Rook
line.
G5 on the board.
We
Do
have
we have Rook G5 on the
Rook
board?
to G5 on the board.
And time trouble? What's the clock
Whoa.
times?
3 minutes 50 seconds for
Gukesh.
Gukesh. Luckily for him, now he has the increment. Now he has
Rook
the
G5.
Mira mentioned that Queen C6 is not the only winning move.
The crazy part, Mira mentioned Queen to D4,
I mean,
also Queen to A5.
allowing Rook G2 and not worrying
And
about
in every
it.
case, allowing Rook to G2. If I'm going to allow Rook G2, I'm going to take the pawn on C6.
Might as well.
Well, you know what? Queen D4,
Yes.
let me double check it, but it turns out, yeah, the computer never captures on G2, but Queen D4 allows for Rook D5, and the only move to keep the advantage would be go back to C3. So Queen D4 is not a move.
Okay.
Queen D4 implies you repeat the position once and then find one of the other winning moves,
Right.
which is not easy.
Wow. Okay, as we get ready for another break, let's just take another quick gander at the standings. We have all the results in the ladies, but in the open, we do have 2 games completed.
Right, we had 2 draws so far. So Nepomniachtchi remains in the clear first with 3.5 points.
Having dodged a huge prep by Prague to maintain a lead with the black pieces too, please.
And Fabi also saved the game. He
Big
could have
save. Easily lost to Vidit.
against Vidit.
2 games remaining, and Gukesh is in the driver's seat in this one. The ladies, nothing
In
changed.
the ladies, we had all draws, so nothing's changed. Zhongyi still leading the tournament with 3.5 points, and Goryachkina still in the clear second place.
And as we take a break, our own Sharon Carpenter caught up with Fabiano and had a very nice chat with him. Have a look. Let's see.
Let's go further back to when you first discovered chess. You were a child, you were living in New York, in Brooklyn, Park Slope at the time, and you were a member of an after-school chess program, weren't you? What are your first and your fondest memories from playing chess? What's your first memory of chess, and why did it resonate with you? What did you love about it back then?
My first memory was probably my first tournament. So I'd already played chess a bit. I had learned the game. I was, I guess, a little bit over 5 years old. So it was a long time ago. But I lost all my games in my first event, and all of them in the same way. I remember it pretty clearly. All of them were by losing by time. So I always forgot to press the clock. And sometimes my opponents who probably felt bad about playing a 5-year-old and the kid can't
How old
even.
were they?
I don't remember, but I
Much
guess
older.
they were probably quite, because it was at a chess club, and so it was open to all ages. So I could have been playing someone of any age, and I remember one player reminding me to press the clock, which normally you're trying to beat your opponent. You're not supposed to help them, but he probably felt pretty bad that I couldn't remember to press the clock.
Did you regret it though? Did you win in the end?
I lost all my games in that tournament.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it was maybe not the best start, but over time my results got better. Yeah, but that was my first memory, and I have some very good memories of playing in some of the U.S. youth events.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Pan American events, for example, we were going overseas. I went to Argentina twice as a kid, went to Colombia, and very often I was playing with my friends on the same team. Some of the chess players who became very good and are still in the chess scene, such as Robert Hess, Mark Arnold. They're not really professional players anymore, but they became grandmasters.
Yeah.
They became very good players, and we were sort of competitors and sort of friends. It was a bit of both, but we were playing on the same U.S. team and trying to get medals. So those are some of my fond memories.
A lot of fans in America obviously would love to see another US world champion. Do you feel any pressure there, or do you know how to take the pressure off from that?
I don't feel pressure from that. For me, it's mostly internal pressure if I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
I'm motivated, but also that comes with some stress because I'm pushing myself a bit. So I don't feel the external pressure so much. If I do, it's more so from, let's say, friends or family who are, I know that they're rooting for me, and also I don't want to disappoint them because, of course, I have had disappointing tournaments in the past. I've had good tournaments, but the losses feel more personal. They feel like maybe this is like a human thing, or it's just a chess thing. I'm not sure, but I definitely feel like the losses outweigh the victories. They're much more painful than the victories are enjoyable.
I know you said you focus on your losses more, the human thing. You focus more on your losses than your wins. But when you do win, do you let yourself kind of smell the roses a little bit? Do you celebrate? Like, what do you do? Do you get on the phone? Who's the first person you call? How do you enjoy that moment? Because there's got to be somewhat of a relief, and I was just speaking to Yasser about it, just about the sheer look of relief that you see on players' faces sometimes after a difficult tournament.
Yeah, definitely. If you, let's say, it comes down to the final game and you win that game and you win the tournament, or you achieve whatever result that you're looking for, there is definitely a lot of relief, and there's this period of a lot of enjoyment, but it usually passes really quickly. And maybe the reason why is because your next tournament might be around the corner.
Yes.
So you might be playing 5 days later. Like after my last Sinkfield Cup game, I think I was playing pretty much a week later in another event. And you can't really think, okay, now it's time to relax, because you already have to play another game, and you don't want that tournament to be bad. So you just have to forget about what happened in the past week.
The stages are set, the players are primed, the best of the best are ready to face off in the 2024 Grand Chess Tour. The top players in the world prepare to battle across 4 countries for a $1.5 million prize fund. Everything starts in Warsaw with the Superbet Rapid and Blitz Poland. Then off to Bucharest for the Superbet Chess Classic Romania. The players then travel to Zagreb for the Super United Rapid and Blitz Croatia. The tour concludes with back-to-back events in St. Louis, Missouri, the chess capital of America, for the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz and the Sinkfield Cup. 9 players will go in, but only one can be crowned champion. Who is prepared to make history? Get ready for the return of the Grand Chess Tour.
I'm Grandmaster Maurice Ashley. Join me on October 24th to 26th for the St. Louis Chess Conference, to be held right here in the chess capital of America. Also featuring legendary world champion Garry Kasparov and Hall of Fame inductee Judith Polgar, the conference will explore the broader educational and social impact of chess. Early registration ends April 30th. Go to stlouischessconference.org and sign up today.
The St. Louis Chess Club is the premier chess facility in the United States. We bring the educational benefits of chess to thousands of students across the St. Louis area. We also promote chess at the highest levels, hosting all levels of the U.S. championships, as well as high-profile tournaments that attract the world's best players. Become a member and enjoy perks such as free classes and lectures, weekly tournaments, and so much more. Visit stlouischessclub.org to claim your membership today. The St. Louis Chess Club Scholastic Program brings the educational value of chess to kids in schools across the St. Louis area. Active in over 100 schools throughout the St. Louis City and County, the St. Louis Chess Club has been able to reach over 85,000 students in both in-school and after-school programs. We view chess as a valuable educational tool. Learn more about our scholastic programming by visiting stlouischessclub.org/education. In the world of collegiate chess, there is no team rising quite like the one at the University of Missouri. The team has brought home title after title, including the 2024 Pan American Intercollegiate Championship, the first time ever in school history. Guided by their head coach, Christian Karilla, there is no stopping the Tigers. Respect, responsibility, discovery, excellence. University of Missouri.
The World Chess Hall of Fame, located in the heart of St. Louis's historic Central West End. Want to know why chess has intrigued people around the world for nearly 1,500 years? Stop by and learn about the impact of chess from our 3 floors showcasing the art, culture, and history of the game. The World Chess Hall of Fame has something for everyone to enjoy. For more information on current exhibits, please visit worldchesshof.org. St. Louis, the chess capital of the United States. It also plays host to an award-winning shop dedicated to chess merchandise, all-occasion gifts, and plenty more. At Q Boutique, you can shop both in-store and online. From quirky greeting cards to luxury chess sets, there is something for everyone at Q Boutique. Enjoy a shopping experience like no other. Make sure to check out QBoutiqueSTL.com for a wide variety of gifts for everyone to enjoy.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's take a look at our current standings as round 5 is still going on.
Let's start with the open section. What do we have for us,
We have 2 draws so far, which means Nepomniachtchi remains in the lead and Fabiano Caruana in the clear second.
Gukesh at work against Nijat and Hikaru still fighting against Alireza. Now in the ladies section, however,
In the ladies section, we had all draws today, so no changes in the standing. Zhongyi still leading the tournament.
very, very nice. But we, in our 2 remaining games, we have taken some forks in the road, Miro. A game of Gukesh.
Oh, well.
Wow.
Oh, well. While the other game looks closer to a draw, and we thought Gukesh was completely winning.
Right.
After this
Rook G5.
mistake, we said Rook G5, but that's not the end of adventures, because he played Knight to E4.
A mistake as well.
A mistake, but still keeps this little tiny advantage. So Rook G2 was very obvious, King H1, Knight to D5.
Okay. Forking
Double
the queen
attack.
and the rook.
No, pardon me, it's I am coming with double attack on your knight and the king, deflecting the knight to take the rook. And by the way, Knight F6, King G2 sequence is the best moves white has.
Okay.
Knight to D5. Queen to C6,
Grabbing
knight
pawn.
E3, and pawn takes E3. Queen F5, which is, I believe, the strongest move in the position for black. So queen's endgame. White's pawn up,
Right.
but white's king is so exposed. So it's very likely that this will be very, very long game, and there is no guarantee white's going to win.
So, for example, E4.
Yeah,
the last
E4, computer has as the strongest move, by the way.
Let's go.
Yep, queen to G5, king F3.
By the way, I'm thinking in this moment, Queen D5 check is a big threat.
Absolutely, yeah, this
Yes.
has to be highlighted. So
Right.
because white has an extra pawn,
Exactly.
right, any queen's exchange,
King of pawn
pretty much
endgame?
any queen's exchange would end the game immediately. So
Right.
that's what White is trying to speculate on. I go the e4, yeah, I'll want to put the queen on d5. But black comes up with those never-ending checks, it seems.
King e3?
Check here, king e3.
Yeah, dropping the pawn with check.
But then
King
it's
d4?
King d4.
king d4.
And banking on the e-pawn.
Yeah, so the e-pawn. Yeah, but the pawn is not running too fast. Again, and I'm not that smart. It's the computer that tells that it's almost equal after queen g4. Then he's gonna rush with that pawn, perhaps.
Okay, let's go. Check, check.
Check here.
Yes.
I love the way Yasser wants to compete with the computer.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay. King
And
goes
then
back.
King d5.
King c5, actually. to
Oh, you
avoid
like
the
king
check.
c5? Okay, king c5.
King
I'm with
c5.
Nazi.
Yeah, I like your optimism. Yeah, and
We can't push e5, there's queen c4.
So what?
e5.
C4,
Yes,
yeah,
that's
E5,
what
let's
you.
go.
That's what you do, and then queen to c4 check.
King
And I think we
B6.
are getting carried away, honestly.
Why?
Well, I trust computer on this one. By the way, it's a very nice try where I'm left with the only move, queen f7. This won't happen. Let me tell you, this won't happen, but it shows that if White wins this one, it's be a very, very long game.
True.
With pretty much any step forward White takes, Black has billion checks.
Right.
And then you run away from all those checks and you play another move according to player, say moving the pawn to e5, and Black once again has like 20 checks.
Right.
So it will be a very long game. 2.5 minutes for Gukesh, 10 minutes for Abasov. So might last very long considering the increment.
Thank you,
Nijat
Miro.
already defended a queen ending against Firouzja just the last round.
Exactly. He's getting a good workout on his queen endings. Let's jump to the game of Alireza and Hikaru. I can see on my clock times 4 minutes for Alireza, 7 minutes for Hikaru. When we left it, we saw the position after the move bishop d3, and we were really trumpeting what we thought were clear advantages for Hikaru, beginning with the obvious sequence of rook c1. Let's trade off a pair of rooks. That makes this pawn on e6, which is blockaded, far weaker. After rook takes c1, check, king g2. The sequence we saw was with knight c5, and we kind of just gave it a stop right here. We're attacking this bishop, we're attacking this pawn, and we're picking up this pawn on e6. So we thought that this was a clear-cut, clear and dry advantage for Hikaru. Hikaru didn't do that, and that was a really surprising sequence. He played the move knight c3 instead, leaving the 4 rooks on the board, and Alireza played what I thought was a really, really nice move. And maybe Hikaru missed this. Maybe Hikaru was thinking knight takes a4, forgetting for a moment that I don't actually have to go down and check you here. I can actually swing around and play a move like rook to g2.
It's a great resource for White.
It comes out of a clear blue sky. f4, d4, rook g2, g5, ooh, f5.
I'm starting to like White's pawns.
Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm starting to get scared if
Except Black has this knight d5 move, going to e3 or f4, or even f6 if necessary, but all those squares.
Suddenly it's like one of those positions that you would like to have 3 knights. You know, you could put one on e3, you put one on f4, you put one on f6. Miro, this game of Hikaru and Alireza is actually double-edged for a position that's...
well, absolutely. Right you are. So move 48, when we were discussing rook c1, there was also another option of going knight to d6 first.
Also
covering b7 and not letting White, of course, to trade the knight and then planning for going rook c1. Knight c3, despite looking active, is not the best move. f4, d4. And here, well, Alireza found the right idea, but not the right execution, well, according to the machine, because f5 apparently was stronger to first stop the g7 pawn and then attack it from the g2.
It makes sense.
While this, at least if we believe the computer, this is, well, more than acceptable for Black. f5, knight to d5, rook to e4, they're following the first line of the engine. And yeah, black pretty much has to make a draw. To highlight, knight e3 you can play, rook to d4, one of the moves, and then you are not taking, well, you could take the rook, but yeah, computer, like one of the lines, it just goes, takes away a 5. And says, yeah,
Get away.
I want to make a draw. I don't want to win because there is no win. Yeah, like 2 pawns and after rook d7 would be too dangerous. So after rook e4, 3 first moves for black is knight to e3, f4 or b4 with the same idea to trade, kind of trade the bishop and and make a draw.
Can I pick your brain there for just
Absolutely.
a minute? Knight e3, you're attacking the rook, you're attacking the pawn on f5. Now, I understand that after rook takes d4, knight takes f5 is kind of pulling the parachute ripcord, if you will. But if I take the rook, just go ahead.
If you take the rook,
how do I get
a check?
I check. And let's say I...
You don't want to go to the 8th rank, I assume. And yeah, for those who want, let's you know, by the way, king f8 doesn't lose.
It doesn't lose.
Yeah, king e8, king g2, white's already winning. Once again, don't ask me why, but it wasn't your plan, right?
No, my plan was to go king f6.
Right, then once again,
rook
a
check,
king e5.
Right. Just the simple takes.
King takes g2, and in fact, the only one not to lose.
You know, it was funny. This is one of those moments where I'm thinking that my 2 rooks, I play a move like king f4, rook, b8, and my rooks checkmate. But they don't.
e7.
Rook b8.
Yeah. Rook b8 is the move, yeah, but there is bishop at b5.
Oh, no.
Bishop b5, and actually cards, like the other rook cannot join, yeah?
Oh no, because the rook can't go to d8. I can go rook c2 check. I still can't. Well, wait a minute. Hold on.
Beautiful. There's rook c2 check here.
Rook to c2.
The first rank issues.
Yes, I have to go to
King f3.
f1. King f3, king e1. So we pretend that you don't have the rook and I don't have like the bishop and half of my other materials. I'm just running away from not getting checkmated on the first rank.
Nice.
So that's what computer does.
So after king e3?
King e3, I go here and I say it's a draw.
You can't go to d1?
Maybe I could. Yeah, the same draw, because if I go here, you give a check. If I insist and go to c1, you check with the other rook. And this is still a draw, but it's too far away, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
It almost felt like the rooks and the king were coordinating. The black rooks and black king were coordinating. So does it mean that Hikaru's advantage slipped then?
Well, I'm looking
the whole
for...
knight c3 was just wrong. He should have played rook c1.
Yeah. So that was the moment when he certainly went wrong. So he could have gone knight d6 or rook c1.
Rook c1 was our choice. This knight c3, and then Firouzja maybe missed a more salient moment. He could have played f5 and not allowed g5.
Yeah, but if g5 is a draw, and
and now we're up to date with the
same
players. Sorry, help me out here. Hikaru had 6 minutes against 4 minutes, and Hikaru just spent 3/4 of his time, I want to say.
He played knight b4, by the way.
Hikaru played knight b4.
Going for the bishop.
Same idea, right? Rook d4, knight d3. And
exactly, he's going for that.
He's just avoiding all the knight g2 ideas.
He doesn't want to be tempted by them?
Right.
Okay, there is another line.
Okay, please.
f6 check.
Here?
King takes f6. Rook to f2.
Check.
Black has to block to f5.
He has to block. He can't play king
e7.
King e7?
King e7 is not on the list for whatever reason. Rook f7, white is winning.
King d6?
But you forget about bishop b5. Bishop b5 again, I guess. Check on d7 and bishop b5 and so on.
That's beautiful. Wow.
So once again,
f6 check.
Has to take. After rook f2, rook f5 is the only move.
Blocking, okay, and d3 is hanging.
Say white captures f5.
Right.
King captures e7.
Give me a queen. I have to go rook e8.
Just take on d3 now?
No.
Knight captures d3, yes.
Oh yeah, black has
queen.
2 pawns.
Yeah.
rook takes, and knight b2 or
c5 or
knight f4, in fact.
knight
So it says
f4.
knight
Is
f4
black
is
better
possible.
here?
No,
No?
I will go rook here.
Yeah.
I should be.
No, but-
I'll get my king. I mean, you're going to win this pawn, but my a pawn is going to be really fast.
Honestly, I'm surprised the computer goes knight f4.
I am too. I would go knight
Knight
c5.
b2, take
So
knight
at least to
b2.
know I'm never losing this one, right?
Right?
Should we try like knight c5? Rook a8, we can't take, yes.
No.
We
That's
can't
a
take
check.
on f4.
That's a check.
a4, so it's
Whoops,
still...
oops. But hold on.
Anyway,
just a
there is
second.
this line, you see? There is this line.
The position is really flared up because, again, 2 minutes for Alireza, and he,
both have 2
I'm
minutes.
sure, is looking at that
F6.
line f6 check and trying to calculate the 4 sequence.
I mean, White's not risking anything in that line, so Firouzja should go f6.
Yeah, he can go f6. Rook d4, pretty much an immediate draw.
But what if I'm incredibly greedy and I go bishop b5?
Bishop b5, you could, then rook takes f5,
Five.
you take on d4. and
Yes.
According to the machine, rook to d5, for whatever reason, black is even slightly better.
Rook to d5. Black
Rook
is like-
d5, and then
I'm sorry,
if
I completely missed that. In my
rook
mind's
goes to
eye-
d2, doubling on the d file, rook to c5.
Yeah.
Over the 5th rank, black just covers everything.
It was strange. In my mind's eye, I was dropping my rook on d7 with check. You were supposed to take my pawn on e6, and I was going to have a king hunt. Maybe I get nothing. I come up
But the king
empty-handed,
hunt.
but it
Yep.
was a king hunt.
f6 on the board.
F6 on the board, and the game has flared anew with this pawn sacrifice. King takes
So
f6,
Hikaru
rook
has
check.
to play rook f5, only move.
And
we have
he
it
does
on
it.
board.
He didn't spend any time on that move, rook f5. So I think he probably analyzed the sequence when he was playing knight b4, because otherwise knight f4
Right.
was safe.
So in that endgame, rook versus knight,
Let's-
where
let's
White
look at
is
it again.
taking the a pawn, is black in danger?
No, not at all.
Really? I would have said
Computer
yes.
says no, but
I would have said yes
No,
because
look,
what
I
should
think
you-
if you
knight
want to
f4.
make a draw, you should be able to eliminate the a pawn.
By
Just
the way,
let's
we
not
do-
look at the computer. Let's not go knight f4. Can we just say play stupid move like knight b2, for instance?
rook a8.
Rook a8.
Rook 8 and go king e4
Why don't we play
Rook
d3?
a5.
or d3.
D3.
D3. If you take king e4, you can't take, I guess. Yeah, king e4. How do you stop the pawn?
Exactly.
So I have to go rook a. Oh, yes. I would lose there.
Exactly.
So you-
I think
King f2, maybe after knight b2. Okay, now I'll
But then
check
you
it
take
with
on
the.
a4
Now
and-
I'll check it with the machine. Yeah, knight b2.
King
Oops,
f1.
sorry. Yeah, king f2 or king f1. Otherwise,
F1.
Black is
otherwise
better.
white's in trouble.
was the one. Yeah.
So you have to go with the king to the f file, and then
Respect
black
pass.
just takes the pawn and in no danger whatsoever.
But the one that shocked me, Miro, is in this position that the computer also suggested knight f4. Now, this is the one where I would have said, Nasi, be careful, because this is where you can get yourself in a world of hurt. King f1, if you get greedy, I'm not saying you should, knight takes h3, and this a pawn is going to make a queen. This knight is too far away. So knight f4, but does the computer suggested knight f4?
And
didn't it?
what did you
I
what
played
did you
king
do
f1.
after? Yeah, king f1.
I played king.
Let's see. Knight h3 is bad.
Okay,
You're
good.
right. Okay, better as in white is slightly better. The best move is d3,
And then I would go king
but don't
e1.
quote me on this.
King e1 is better.
King e1, no. Yeah, like it's tricky. Because
Knight-
black pawns are also quite
So this endgame is still
Yeah.
playing for 3 results.
Wow.
Absolutely.
I thought it was playing for 2 results, a draw or a win for white, and you're saying it
They
could be
can
better
both
for
make
black.
mistakes, yeah.
Look, now it
Wow.
really depends if Hikaru goes knight b2 or knight f4. So knight b2, he is safe, but also very unlikely he wins.
I want to say, seriously, you know,
Meanwhile, also, sorry to interrupt, but
Please.
huge update in Gukesh's game. It looks like he actually has winning chances now. And the queen ended.
Wow. We're going to jump to that, no question about it. But this could be a career-defining, a tournament-defining moment for both players, as this position is actually really, really sharp. I mean, if Hikaru wins it, great, wow, what to say. Alireza, wow, what to say. Hikaru goes down, and so, wow, this is an amazing... This is a crazy game. And what's happening with the times as well? And he did play knight f4. He didn't go for knight b2.
So he's playing for a
Knight
win
f4
potentially.
trying to play for, well, maybe not for a win, just...
But knight b2, we pretty much agree. Knight b2 will win the pawn on a4 and likely make a draw. But knight f4 and king f1, we agree. And then you, Nasi, you said the most obvious move, king e1, is a mistake. It's like, I'm just trying to stop these pawns.
Okay, let's try. Here. So if king e1, okay, it's not a big mistake, I guess. Maybe it is. Then knight takes h3.
Knight takes h3. Rook, I wanted to go after the a5.
So rook a8, the line goes rook a8, g4, take on a5, king f4, and apparently you're not stopping the g-pawn.
The knight on h3 is just perfectly placed.
I'm in shock.
And given that both players are in time trouble, they could easily make mistakes here.
Truly, no question about that.
Alireza can underestimate Black's position and go for this line we're analyzing and end up
easily.
losing.
And to do this with 2 minutes on your clock, you know, wow, Evgeny, I've got to tell you, this is... I would be frightened for both players at this point. I mean, this is like high stakes.
I mean, Black feels safer, right?
Or white. Don't look for me for confirmation on that one. Knight f4. Which side would you rather play?
Black, for sure.
For sure?
Yes.
Miro?
I would play black, but I would go knight b2 as a chicken I am. I would make sure that white never has the passed pawn.
By the way, knight f4, king f1 was on the board. Right. And d3 is on the board.
d3 is on the board.
Alireza with 2 minutes. Hikaru, what do you see?
2 minutes, 49 seconds.
So, interestingly,
yes,
it's quite possible to go wrong with white.
Yeah.
Because two moves that make a draw are king f2, which you would argue is counterintuitive.
Right.
And the other one is rook to h8. And
rook h8 I could understand.
Yeah, but don't you want to take the other pawn, right?
Of course.
Rook a8. Let's try rook a8.
King e1
and in this case, it's king to e4.
Now I want to play black.
And black is winning again.
Okay, so hold on. d3. So the two moves that draw, according to the engine, are rook h8, which makes a lot of sense, right?
And king f2.
And king f2, which...
King f2 right after just playing king f1 just
doesn't feel
logical.
right.
And I beg your pardon, like say, you go rook h8, and I go h5, and...
Yeah, what's
the logic if you don't know that the engine suggests it and...
Well, what I understand is that after rook h8, h5, now I can go king e1, king d2, and you've got to play h4, and I will make a draw.
This is crazy. Look, rook h8, h5, you're right, you can go king e1, but moreover, rook a8, the move which was losing a minute ago, now is good enough because I guess the pawn is hanging?
No.
No. This is just
you have to play king
rook
e1
a8,
after
king e4. I still go king e1. Yeah, but the fact remains that the pawn is hanging. Knight h3, rook takes, and the pawn on h6. Anyway.
Alireza did play king f2.
Wow, and knight takes h3, king e3 is on the board. I mean, sometimes you just, these guys are amazingly good. That is just crazy good. They have played king f1.
So he found,
d3. He did find king f2, knight takes e3, king to e3, g4, and you know, if I could reach into the mind of Hikaru for a moment, he's probably thinking, this is great for me. You know, we've got the engines, and we're sitting here going, we understand that white is drawing.
Right.
In Hikaru's mind,
You're still looking for this winning sequence, or
Exactly.
sometimes even like first couple of seconds you spend, what's the most comfortable way to win?
Exactly.
Then you're switching to what's the way to win? Or wait, there is no win.
wow, G4.
So now white needs to play
45 seconds. What does white, sorry, I apologize.
rook h8, or what's the right move? Rook a8?
Well, isn't it time
We
to
don't take
take?
on d3 because of
Why?
g3.
And then we go back, and then G2.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah.
King takes D3, bad move. G3, rook over, move your knight, please, blockade my, so I get my king back in time. You go G2.
Game
and
over.
your next move is G1, and if I take, you fork. Oh, those tricky knights. Okay, so king takes D3, we understand, is a blunder. So we have to go rook to G8 immediately?
Or rook a8.
Rook A8.
Because now black doesn't have
But king d3 was
anymore.
played, according to what I have.
No.
A blunder
According to what I
alert.
have, king d3 was played, and now g3 wins for Hikaru.
Wins for Hikaru.
Wow.
What? And he's played it. What a turnaround.
Alireza missed g2.
He did. That's such an easy move to miss because you're playing the move rook to G8. You're thinking you've got to play knight G5. Otherwise, I take the pawn. But G2.
It's a terrible, terrible blunder.
Oh
But
my
what
word.
a turnaround for Hikaru.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. 38 seconds, 3 minutes, and rook
Played
check
rook f8 check.
is on the board.
Does that make, it shouldn't make any difference.
No,
right?
because
G4?
the king is actually now going to block.
You
the
know what?
white
If
king.
you're an annoying person, you go king e6 in this position.
Just to prove a point.
King e6.
Just to prove a point, yeah. Because
Are
this
you my
pawn,
younger brother?
you know, this pawn and knight, interestingly, win by themselves, right? The king is
you
not
don't
needed.
even need the king. Correct. And by the way, king e6, I
Wow.
think, is what
Rook
he's playing.
f8 check. No,
thinking.
he didn't play it yet.
Oh,
But
I'm telling you. that
king e6.
Right. King e6.
Wow.
This pawn does it by itself. The rook, the knight and the pawn are gonna
Hikaru
cost
coming
him.
back from -1.
And in
Ooh.
such an
Huge
unexpected
win.
way, yeah?
Yeah.
Right, and then when they went into when I saw the move f6 check, I thought Hikaru had to be careful. Genuinely, I really thought that
So Firouzja could have
Alireza.
immediately drawn with rook d4.
Yes,
He took a chance with f6,
he did.
and I said white has no risk. Go
Right.
f6.
Right,
Well, was I wrong?
but then you changed your mind. You like this endgame, and Hikaru Nakamura.
That's official.
He wins.
Wow, climbs out of the cellar, 50%, and for Alireza,
Huge
I mean.
win for Hikaru.
Yeah, I mean, again, we talked at the opening of the show that Magnus thought of Alireza, the heir apparent. Well, he's not performing in the candidates as Hikaru gets back to 50%. What a
Still,
return.
you know, oh,
Yeah,
it's a
kind
full
of like
game.
tingling after that. Boy, what a turnaround. And then you told me that Gukesh, he
In Gukesh's
too.
game, while we were watching Hikaru's game, things changed like 5 times. So
Queen
Let's
endings
catch
have
up.
Wow, there's a pawn. Look at this. It's
the
almost
king is in
perfect.
stalemate position, and there's a lot going on.
This queen is almost an ideal situation. It protects both pawns. It fixes the king. Don't
Intuitively, to you, Yasser, does this look winning for white?
Completely. Completely winning, actually. But wow, does that shake up the standings? Let's take a look now that we have this Hikaru Nakamura result. Please, Nasi.
Right, so Nepo still in the lead and Fabiano in the clear second, but now 3 players share in third place. However, we should mention Gukesh is still playing his game.
And I think, I mean, to my eyes, he's winning. That would give him a tie for first, should he, in fact, win against Nijat. Wow, we'd have we'd have quite the race, 9 games remaining. But let's get caught up on the Gukesh position, if you don't mind, Miro. It looks perfect. White has achieved
yes, it does.
the maximum.
Yeah.
What does the engine think?
Don't look.
What does the engine think?
What would be your
no,
guess?
No.
The
I'm
number.
thinking
The
White.
number. The number. Come on.
Plus 9.
0.58. I'm sorry.
Get out of here.
And
Plus
there've
9.
been there've been couple of turning
Massive.
points, should I say?
Okay.
Because here it's according to the machine, it's +2. I have no idea why, because it keeps giving checks.
Okay.
And maybe we could figure out it wants the queen to be on some other square.
Makes sense.
Check here. Yeah, you can't go to the F file because queen F5 trading the queen on D3.
Instant winner.
Right. Honestly, it doesn't make any progress. It gives like million billion checks and likes.
Let's just pause our analysis and jump to Toronto.
They're live now, so waiting.
Sure.
Okay. So with Hikaru, congratulations. It's your first victory in the candidates tournament. This one, how does it feel?
Yeah, I mean, if it's close to get a win, I thought it was a very interesting game throughout, pretty balanced. And then I thought I only had a chance to win, but I made the slight mistake with knight c3, which I think gave Alireza the opportunity to make a pretty straightforward draw, but then he decided to get adventurous. I mean, for example, if we go back to somewhere around here, I I already thought that after knight b4, he should just go for this. I mean, takes, rook e2, rook c7. I mean, just make the draw, and everybody goes home happy, and that's life. But he played f6, and I also thought that this was just going to be a draw. I mean, I got the sense he played it because he didn't see any risk in this endgame. Effectively, that after takes, queen takes, have this move knight f4, which is very tricky. I mean, initially when I cut f6, I played the move, which was, of course, knight b2, and then something like king f2, knight a4, rook a8, and I mean, the game's going to be a draw very, very soon. But then I spotted that knight f4 is playable, that he can't go after the a pawn right away. And once he has to give the h pawn with this, what do you do? King f2,
for
d3, and then what did he play
king,
here?
King f1.
Yeah, and then king f1, d3, king f2. As soon as I saw that I was going to get all the pawns going, I wasn't sure because, of course, I didn't have 20 minutes to calculate it, so I kind of was assuming that this pawn wasn't quick enough just by looking at where the g pawn is. But it's still very risky to go for this. But we're both low on time, and then Alireza, I mean, he just kind of panicked, and he plays king d3, second on the clock, and then just loses to g3.
1 second here, wow.
Yeah. He went from 40 down to 1. He's just because that g2, knight at f4, take the rook and push the h pawn and win the game. So yeah, I mean, a little bit of luck at the end, but I think I also created some luck by keeping the game going with knight f4, and it worked out.
That's for sure. I had a feeling that you were pushing throughout the game. Did you have the same feeling, or it felt like balanced position?
I mean, I think after time control, I was the only one who was trying to win the game up until I blundered with knight c3, allowing f4. So yeah, I think I was the only one with chances, but I still think it was pretty close to equal. But that being said, I mean, I don't need to reiterate the same point over and over again, but I definitely felt that there's far more pressure on Alireza than there is on me. I mean, I know a lot of people want to pretend that, like, I just say these things, you know, or whatever, but that's simply not the case. You know, I just want to play good chess. And for Alireza, obviously, I mean, last candidates didn't go well for him. It went very poorly, and so I felt like, considering he lost to Nepo very early, he really was gonna try at some point, and I mean, he needs it more than I need it. So let's put it that way. And yeah, I mean, I just kind of took advantage of that, but you have to play the board, you have to play the person, all these different things. That's just how it goes.
This for sure. Yesterday I heard that you were thinking to go and check the eclipse with the boat, but then you changed your mind at the last moment. So why did you do so, and what did you do during the free day?
I mean, I didn't do anything. I just looked at chess. That was all that I did, really. So yeah.
So you decided not to watch the eclipse.
I mean, I ended up actually outside, but it was also so cloudy that I had a feeling it wouldn't be clear. And there are a lot of people I know back in the U.S. who actually saw the eclipse, and so I can go on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or wherever and see the pictures from them. So
it's better to check the moves instead of
exactly.
Yes. Okay, it seemed like it paid off. Thank you so much for joining us, Hikaru. All the best in the next rounds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia. Thank you, Hikaru, for sharing your thoughts. A fortunate victory, but I have to agree with them. he created his chances as well. Is Gukesh creating chances, Miro? I'm very anxious because
while they create chances for one another or for themselves. Yeah, what amazes me, honestly, that this endgame, which I would agree with Yasser every day, that white looks like almost winning. Apparently, he's not.
No.
It's like it's bare, like 0.10 and 0.10, like a fraction of a pawn, means I believe that black doesn't really have a perpetual. But if there was a way for white to win, of course, the evaluation would have been much bigger. So the key here is the say after king b5.
Yes.
Black can stop giving checks, and this is amazing to me. Like for instance, he can go h3, and computer claims this one to be well almost equal.
Wow.
This is so hard to evaluate.
Again, this will never happen, right? But computer does like really strange things. Like for instance, going h3, like not being afraid of the a pawn, and then one of the moves white is supposed to play according to computer is a quiet move, queen d6.
Defending
once again.
h2.
And imagine Gukesh on like 40 seconds, and you have such a lot of checks. Would you play queen d6? It's very hard. It doesn't even create any sort of threat or something.
Well, you take away the b8 square.
Yeah, I agree. You cover some
You
squares.
cover
right?
h2, and maybe on a good day you go king b6, a7.
How is this not winning?
King c5 takes, right? a7.
Okay, I'm gonna have to. If you could tell me the variation
Crazy.
here. So h3, queen d6.
Queen d6.
Queen e8 check. You said.
Yep.
King to c5. Did you grab my pawn?
Yep. Queen e4. That's
you're
one
a
of the
mean man.
things.
And what am I supposed to do? a7, right, Nazi?
There's queen e3. Oh, there you have queen d4.
Right. So a7. Then what happens, Miro?
a7, it's draw in so many... No, okay, not in
What?
many ways. The most convincing draw would be, of course, an easy move, king to h7. You go to h7 and you're not afraid of anything.
Well, I just have to point out that this is funny.
This
Queen
loses,
e3 check, queen d4 check, and it all depends on whose turn it is to move. No. So king h7.
Yep.
Your pawn is here. My pawn is here. And this is a... what?
Triple zeros.
My gosh. Okay.
Every
my
possible
brain
line.
hurts. That is
so Gukesh
crazy.
actually played king d5. He went the other direction instead of king b5.
Queen c8 check.
Which looked very logical to me, because you can always
Also-
cover the checks with queen d6 now.
Or if you go into the corner,
Or you
queen
can also go to
check.
the other side, go for the checkmate.
Oh,
King e5
wow.
and all the way to h6.
Okay, let me just refresh my board. Apologies, everybody. So I get
So
my
let me tell you,
king d5. Yes, and
in
tell
the
me.
position on the board, h3 is, well,
Only
if
move?
not the only, but by far the strongest.
So h3. Other moves. What happened? What,
Queen d8, you
d6?
will likely to lose, I think. Queen a8, you're just lost after queen c6.
queen a8 check.
Yeah,
Queen
a8
c6,
check, queen
and
c6.
then the valuation is what?
Almost +2.
Okay.
So I assume it's a lot.
And if queen d8,
Queen d8,
d6
queen d6
is also almost +2.
No, it's less, but it's anyway. H3 is the strongest one, and then after this check on a5, you go to e6, and this is something regardless of valuation. Like if you, Yasser, would make those moves like queen d8, queen d6, queen a5. Yep.
Sorry, just a second.
Yep.
Queen d8, queen d6, queen a5. Yes.
King e6, and I wanted to say, like, regardless the valuation, that's one of the methods to play. So you go next to your opponent's king.
Right.
Right. So for
Something-
checkmate threats.
Completely lost.
Exactly. I've been feeling that for some time. And he's got
H3.
queen d8.
It goes h3.
He
0.24.
goes queen d8, Miro.
Queen d8 on the
He
board.
didn't
so we'll
play h3.
But let me be honest in this case. I think you, like 99.99%, you lose this with black,
Of
even
course.
though it's a draw.
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter computer evaluation, right? So-
It's just practical play
time
between
also-
two human players.
Gukesh has 40 seconds and Nijat 2 minutes 15 seconds.
But by the way, with
No
the
time
king
to
on
calculate.
e6, even if my clock, I'm down to my last 20 seconds, I'm feeling really good.
You know,
because I'm seeing checkmate.
The only move here is h3.
Only move now.
Only move, which might lose anyway, but anything other than h3 is +6 for white.
What is white supposed to do after h3? Because I can't push the pawn.
I guess you go king e7.
We have h3 on the board.
h3 on the board.
And I'm expecting king. Now, king f7, I do understand that invites queen h5 check, and that I don't want. So I do like your move king e7. Oh, but then queen g5.
Yeah,
what am I saying?
Now I can,
apologies.
I can afford the queen trade now.
Wait.
Right. What is going on suddenly? Suddenly, what is
so
going on?
So what if I give queen b8 check?
Okay. Queen b8 check I enjoy because you patrol the diagonal and you go a7. And now, as Miro would tell us, I was about to say there's a lot of checks in the position.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's a check.
G7, yeah. And what did he do?
We
went
have
A7.
Right.
We did. And now I'm assuming there's a lot of checks.
Bajillion checks, yes.
Yeah.
From A6 or
we
A2.
do have an interesting move on the board. Gukesh played king f7.
King f7.
Oh,
wow.
but I thought that invited queen h5.
King f7.
Queen h5, queen g6. And I promote with the checkmate.
There's the only way to save.
No.
But I won't tell you. Queen a2 check is the only way to save, believe it or not.
King f7.
Queen h5
a2
is
check.
losing.
Queen h5 check, queen g6.
Resigns. Yep.
And I promote at the end with the checkmate.
That is so nasty.
But queen a2.
Queen a2.
Check. Queen e6. We trade. Black promotes the queen. White promotes the queen. And we start over again.
Okay. But this
Thanks to this pawn on e4, we can both promote into queen.
Oh, no.
And this is once again a draw according to the machine, but you can play it another 100 moves and maybe white goes wrong or black goes wrong.
I tell you, I've always felt that e2, e4 was white's strongest move. The e2, e4 is white's opening move is so strong. Queen
queen
by the way, queen
he
a2.
did play queen a2. This is amazing.
An amazing. How many hours have these guys been playing? And
many hours. Does white has to play queen e6? Do I have any other moves?
Well, the problem is
king f6, let's say. You don't have h2.
Then it's a kind of a check on the f file.
I thought queen f8 was mate, but they have queen g8.
It is.
It's not a mate. You have queen g8. Queen h6,
Lucky
queen
me.
h7, yeah.
Lucky me. I didn't check you on f2. I went h2, but you're right. Oh my gosh. By the way, we do have the queen trade. It looks like they're going to go for another queen ending with one game remaining. Let's just refresh our standings and remind everybody why this game is so critical.
Right. Right now, after 5 rounds, we have Nepo in the first place with 3.5, but Gukesh is trying to catch him because if he wins, he joins the leader. Most likely it will be a draw, however, and he will join Fabiano, sharing second place.
Who at the moment, at least, is clear second. And Prague, how many people will have 2.5 points in case Gukesh draws? Just
2.
Just 2.
Hikaru joins Prague.
Exactly. And in the ladies, no changes because everybody made a draw. Everybody's a winner.
Right, everybody drew today, so 10 in the first place with 3.5, Goryachkina in the second, and 3 ladies sharing the third place.
Wow. We have the queen ending. Thanks to the pawn on e4, everybody got a new queen, Miro. Now, this should just be, obviously, table base, perfect play.
Yeah, king h6, for instance, the obvious move, of course. No one would consider anything else but king h6 is the only way not to lose immediately.
Because king h8.
King h8, I don't know, sequence of checks. Like king g6 would lose, for instance, because of queen f7. And yeah, your queen is in the corner, so you can't really go forward because you might lose the king.
Exactly.
So go here. It's a check on f6.
Right.
And this is where you lose. And this is where the e4 pawn comes in handy.
Right.
So no check like from d5 or from b7. And then after queen h5, you go king f8.
And now we get an intermezzo.
And any possible way you trade the queens,
right.
white pawn remains. So it will be what, fourth consecutive queen,
Right.
Or whatever. I'm not sure.
Whatever.
Or maybe third, but anyway.
But Nijat found the only move. He played king
h6.
h6. Yeah.
He did.
But after queen e3, he went king h5. It's a huge mistake, according to the machine.
He had to go back to h7?
Wait a second. Had
King
to go
h7.
to h7,
Right,
went to
staying.
h5. Once again, on seconds, I'm not sure how easy it is to understand all
impossible
that.
to know any
It's
of
queen
them.
to c5.
I still don't know why white is winning.
Same thing, like white somehow gets to the f
But I
file.
have
Like,
king h6 here.
for instance, king h6. Now I get to the f file.
Uh-oh.
And
You
I
have to go
still,
to
once again, I'll force you into the same setup.
Yeah, but
So it
this,
was quite a narrow path.
Wow.
this can still end in a draw because Gukesh still has to find those only moves.
Absolutely. That's
We need three
super
queen.
tricky.
Such a tricky end game to play with no time on the clock. It's
Exactly. So king h5. So the key move here, Miro, is queen c5 check.
the only winning move.
That's the only winning move. And then the idea is that after queen c5 check, you can't go up the board because a move like king g4, queen f5 check.
Cutting the king off
cut-
and just pawn promotes.
Exactly. And if you go back with king to h6, then queen f5 check, and we ensnare you once again. But it has to be the queen c5 move right here, right now.
Yeah.
The critical moment. And if he doesn't play queen c5, this chance might not appear again. So it's now or never.
Exactly. So a move like e5, I'm sure it's...
Oh, queen c6 probably. And
Well, is it that simple, though? Because
queen
can't
d7.
And
Queen
then-
d8 and I stand in front. It still might be losing.
Well, honestly, any move.
Do we have e5?
If e5's played, any move, right? Like queen a8 is good enough.
Queen a8 even
I'm
is
not
good
sure. Queen
enough.
a8, queen g2, queen c6 check.
But the winning moment right here, right now, is for
queen to c5 check.
And
Will
that's
he
it.
find it or not?
No, we have king f5 on the
King
board.
f5 on the board. Let's see if, or rather, how many different ways. Queen g2 is the only move. However,
Queen g2.
will
is
you
the only-
find queen g2? Because all the rest, once again,
Well,
dead.
He
'Cause
has to
you're so-
find it, otherwise he's checkmated. So I think that's his only move.
Well,
incredible.
No, you're tempted to play queen f1 check, aren't you?
Yeah, like queen f1 check,
And I lose.
queen f4,
Queen h3,
queen h3, king f6, and we have the same setup, which somewhat went a bit lower on the board,
But
right?
then I go queen
we have
g2.
queen f1 on the board.
Queen f4
Queen
immediately. Oh, no.
Queen
the
f1 and queen
ending.
f4, and this is it.
Queen
Each move
g2.
has been a
And
blunder.
let me try.
Such a
Queen
tricky-
b5 check, in which case queen e5
We have
We
wins.
queen
do
c5
have
on the
queen b5 check is on the board, actually. After queen f1 check, queen f4.
Is queen e5 the only move that wins?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Queen
No.
e5,
But guess what? You've got a discovered check now.
yeah, you have counter check.
And Gukesh has played it.
And he's played queen e5. So any check, you go check, I go check.
But yeah, but this
Evaluation.
one's easy because then you trade the queens on the very next move.
Wow.
Bingo. That's right. Exactly right.
These last 10 moves have been absolutely crazy.
Wow. I remember this so well. It was a Wesley So versus Anish Giri game from the Tata Steel. It was a queen ending where it was 0-0-0. A player would make a move. It was plus 47. A player would make a move. It was 0-0-0, and it was 47 plus 47 in the draw.
People watching at home calling them putzers.
Right? What's wrong with these guys? Queen e5. What a move. What's the clock times? Nazi?
1 minute 30 seconds for Gukesh and 2.5 minutes for Nijat.
Wow. And first
Now
place is
it's-
on the line. And for Gukesh fans, I mean, all of India has to be watching this and just holding their
let's-
breath.
Let's not forget, he's 17 years old.
17 years young. I mean, one of the youngest. So Bobby Fischer was 16 years old when he first played in the candidates?
Or 17.
16 or 17, yeah. But he has to be the second youngest after Bobby Fischer ever to play in the candidates. Queen e5, what a moment.
If he wins this game, he'll be +2
Correct.
after 5 rounds.
And tied with Jan for first place. Oof.
Incredible. And if we remember his game against Nepo, it was Gukesh who was playing for a win too.
Right.
So far, he's been showing
Remarkable skill. Queen d7 check. And by the way, don't forget that he qualified just by the narrowest of margins, surpassing at the very end
Anish
Wesley
Giri,
So,
right?
or was
I think Firouzja surpassed Wesley.
Correct. I apologize.
And Anish
Gukesh
surpassed Anish by
in
2 points
in the
or
Grand
something
Prix.
like that.
And we just got this check, and this is where he forces the trade of queens. If you go King F5, King G4, it's Queen
He
F5.
clearly sees it. He blitzed out King F6.
And you can't go King H6. That's a mate on the board. So
This
you
is
have to
it?
go King F. Now we
Queen
go
G5.
check, and it's all over except the crying. Queen G5 check, and wow, Gukesh will tie for first. Miro, there it is.
That's it.
What an eventful round this was. The free day. Players
wow.
came. They brought some great stuff for this round.
Right. It's, in fact, at some point,
Yes.
let's recall what the results were. It was all draws in the ladies tournament. It was 2 draws, and those 2 draws, Fabi was completely lost. We thought he was lucky to escape.
Against Vidit.
And those remaining games looked like, okay, maybe today is all draws and we are
peaceful
all
day.
peaceful, happy. And then Hikaru wins, and then at the very end, Gukesh wins.
Right, kind of like a bursting of the dam. Our congratulations to Gukesh as he ends up in a tie after 5 rounds for first place with Jan.
Incredible result.
I didn't see that coming. Boy, we're going to have to run our models and see what happens now after 5 rounds with Gukesh and Jan both tied for first. But again, very close. Fabiano is following with a half a point behind. And let's take a look with the updated standings after 5 rounds. Do the honors, Nasi, please.
We have 2 co-leaders now, Nepomniachtchi and Gukesh, with 3.5 points. And in third place,
Clear third, all by
Fabiano
himself.
with 3 points.
Right.
And after Hikaru's win, now he's in a good spot, sharing 4th place with Prag.
At 50% with 2.5, and then the rest of the field. As we know, all draws in the ladies, so the standings didn't change as Tan continues to hold a half a point lead over her rivals there in the ladies' standings. And there we go. I knew. They like to tease us. Our graphics department, they like to tease us.
You're right, Yasser is in the lead, Goryachkina closely following, and still the 3 ladies sharing 3rd. They can catch up any day.
Exactly. Well, speaking of ladies sharing 3rd, for me, Katja, I mean, she will be so furious with herself. She's had 2 winning positions. Had she won them, she'd be sharing the 1st place, not sharing the 3rd place. And wow, once again, just you were reflecting nicely about the open tournament there. Gukesh's victory. When we went originally into that queen ending, Miro, we didn't think the chances were so great, did we?
Well, I wasn't sure. Honestly, by that point, I wasn't sure. I felt like, from the experience, there are always a lot of mistakes in the queen's endgames.
Yes.
Well, the first time this table base was out,
right?
And table base, for those of you guys who do not know, it's it started with 5 pieces on the board. Now it's expanded to more.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it? So you put the random position on a board. Like one side has a king each, of course, and 3 different pieces. And for queen's endgames, obviously, it's very interesting. You give one side a queen each and a pawn.
An extra pawn.
Yeah, and when the table base was out, we were checking the other box, the Bible of Endgame, right? It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
With the computer introduction, all the Endgame books on Queen's endings specifically do not make any sense.
Exactly.
And of course, it only means that right, there'll be a lot of randomness, right? So you do something that seems logical to you, your opponent does something that seems logical to him, and you both make mistakes, and this is life.
Exactly.
Right, so that's what happened, and yeah, Gukesh was just kind of more to the point in those moves. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I remember this very well. We kind of talk about these table bases like God mode, and this idea that I have a king and queen, you have a king and queen, but I have two connected passed pawns on the king side. So I'm just 2 pawns up. Every chess endgame book that you ever thought about from the 19th century and anything that came before proudly announced white is winning, nothing to discuss. And then Dr. John Nunn, he did an article in New in Chess where he said, draw. And it just tasered the entire chess world. And it wasn't just a position that was drawn. It was like so many positions were drawn. And then queen endings became like a totally different field. Yeah, it blew up.
Right. I don't think you can really say that we study nowadays. You learn the principles, and then you half of you kind of praise, well, I'm never going to have it, so people won't make fun of me.
Right.
when I inevitably make mistakes.
Well, I think, I'm not sure if it was Mark Dvoretsky, but somebody was saying there are 4 stages in a chess game, 4 stages in a chess game. There's the opening, middle game, and end game stages. And then the 4th stage is queen endings. Because everything you learned about the first 3 stages goes out the window, and it's all about sheer calculation. So, and in this case, our congratulations to Gukesh as he reels in. Wow, I want to say, what an important victory. How good do you feel being in tie for first?
That's one thing, but let's not forget Hikaru, who might have gotten a present today, but imagine how different it feels.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's still he's far away from the top, right?
And let's jump to Toronto as Anastasia is with our winner. Over to you, Anastasia.
So we have Gukesh here. Congratulations on your victory against Nijat Abasov. How did it go, the game? And show us these few critical moments, please.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was a very complex game. I had an advantage, but around the time control, I kind of spoiled it. But yeah, so around this point, I thought, I mean, this knight e6 was a very interesting move. It shows us a mistake, but okay, I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, because he's trying to bring his pieces, to the king's side, maybe create some kind of attack there,
Sure, and also I thought he was cleverly defending the pawn because down this line, he played rook g5, and for some reason the computer says it's winning, but I didn't see.
I think this knight e4 move was like the best, or I was shocked actually when you play it, because normally when somebody plays rook g5 threatening to take on g2, you kind of try to defend it differently. So you invited him to play this move.
So when I took the pawn, I already saw till the queen endgame.
Yes.
Okay, maybe there was something, but okay, I don't know. So till the queen endgame I saw, and I thought I had decent chances, but once we reached here, I slowly started to realize it's not
that easy.
And yeah, this queen f5 was good, and also this h5 was very nice. Now just wants to take the h3 pawn, and he's getting counterplay. So yeah, I think it was a very precise game. I mean, precise endgame till some point. Yeah, g5 was, I think the first. I felt it was unnecessary.
What did he need to do instead? Like keep the pawn on g6 and
I
just
thought
move
he could just take on h3, queen g6, king f8, and
this position was very Jewish, yes.
Yeah.
So he played this g5.
So g5, I got the c4 trick, and now I'm. He can't go to f8 because I'm trading, and the a pawn is queening. So, yeah, I took all the pawns with check.
Yes.
a5 is a mistake.
Yeah, you never know, until you check the computer,
But okay, I didn't see anything during the game, so that's what matters.
You were playing already here with like 30 seconds increment, right?
I think I was already playing a few moves before with.
Yeah. Was it hard, let's say, to play this ending with without extra time?
Yeah, probably this game for 2 hours I was playing on increments. So.
Yeah. So you got used to it.
So.
Yeah. So the
I
last
guess the
moment
critical
is,
moment
yeah,
is okay, till here I thought it was quite normal and
It felt that king cannot escape. Yes. So
yeah.
what happened in the end? Because we didn't see the end.
So this I thought he had to go king h7.
Here.
No.
Yeah.
Probably king h7. Yeah.
Something like this. So this would save his game,
no,
right? Or
it's
no?
losing.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what the computer is saying.
Yeah. We don't check this so much. How did
Yeah.
it feel for you? Like at the end, at this position, did you have
Yeah,
a feeling that it should be somehow better?
I mean, I saw that king h5 is losing. And
Yeah.
king h5 is also kind of the most like automatic move you would play. But yeah, I knew it should be a draw, but I was hoping for king h5 and yeah, he played king h5.
In the end. So let's say you managed to win this game, and with this victory, how do you feel now after 5 rounds of this tournament?
It was quite a long game and it was quite intense, so I'm happy that I got the win.
Yeah, for sure. And the tournament situation, do you actually follow what's going on, let's say, at the moment?
Of course I
The
follow.
results of the other games?
Yeah, of course I follow, but still a bit early to think about the standings. So I'll just take one game at a time and give my best.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and all the best of luck in the next rounds. And we're going back to the studio.
Thank you, Anastasia. And Miro, you get the final word, final thoughts of this round. You're 17 years old. You're tied for first. You're on top of the world.
Well, he looked a bit tired, I
But
have
he
to
looked
say.
impressed, didn't he?
Right. No, well, while they were analyzing this Queen's Endgame timing again, I thought of one thing. They say in order to, to perform or kind of overperform your expectation, one has to get lucky.
Right.
And then I thought, Nepo was lost today, he made a draw. Fabi was lost today, he made a draw. Hikaru, the game was troished at the very end, he won, and the same thing for Gukesh.
Right.
So that means, despite it,
Everybody's
well,
lucky.
we look at across the table, we do have some favorites and some underdogs, but 9 more rounds, Ben, everything is open.
Thank you.
That will be the wrap-up from Miro.
Perfect. That was perfect. And we hope you enjoyed our coverage. We certainly did. It was an exciting round, wasn't it, Nazi?
I couldn't stop watching. It was so exciting.
Very good. Tell your friends where you're hanging out. Join us tomorrow for round 6, candidates coverage. It's been an exciting day here from St. Louis. We'll say good night. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
This has been a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club. Any reproduction or distribution of this content without the express written consent of the St. Louis Chess Club is prohibited.